Chapter 622. The escape of Ji Mingyao and the several young masters had thrown the more than 1,000 noble Lord Realm warriors into chaos. More than 1,000 people were actually not warriors from Yuzhou. They were secretly mobilized from various forces in the central state, but they were not warriors from the Hades Society or the Samsara Palace. This formation could not be set up in a day or two. It required a long time to get used to it. After all, if one of the 1,000 people made a mistake, the formation would immediately collapse. Ji Mingyao had put in a lot of effort to plan what would happen today. It took her a lot of effort to gather 1,280 people. They could not be mobilized from the Samsara Palace or the Hades Society, or else the demon-slaying hall would have something on them. They had to be bribed in secret or coerced. It was not difficult to kill Lu Li. The difficulty was that the Samsara Palace and the Hades Society could not be implicated and no evidence could be left behind. Otherwise, any Earth Immortal Realm warrior from the Samsara Palace could flatten the Northern Desert and the Cloud State. The leaders of the Samsara Palace and the Hades Society didn't plan this. It was for this reason that they asked Ji Mingyao to handle it. At most, he could just push the blame to them and say that young people were insensible and that it was just a matter of personal feelings. Therefore, after Ji Mingyao and the young masters ran away, over 1,000 people lost their morale right away. Some of them ran away at once, and the rest scattered in confusion. Boom! Hu Lang generated many hand shadows and rage, crushing more than 100 noble Lord Realm warriors who didn't manage to run away in time. The remaining more than 50 noble Lord Realm warriors of the Silver Wolf Mountain were enraged. They didn't bother to go after those noble Lord Realm warriors. They vented their anger in the Black Tortoise City. Boom, 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 the city quickly turned into ruins. Countless soldiers were crushed to death, and many civilians were implicated. Castles were razed to the ground, turning Black Tortoise City into hell. Don't kill civilians. Lu Li couldn't help but yell. The civilians were innocent. It was normal for forces to fight to the death, but the civilians were innocent. The noble Lord Realm warriors of the Silver Wolf Mountain who had lost their minds came back to their senses. It was because Lu Li had hurt Recluse Solar Dragon in one move. Lu Li had established supreme authority in their hearts. Nobody dared to disobey him. Run! The Black Warrior City's cultivators finally came to their senses and fled in all directions, not daring to stay any longer. Kill! Hu Lang bellowed in rage. This time, his entire army was almost wiped out. If Lu Li died, so would his entire race. He suppressed the fire in his heart, and like a ferocious tiger, he released the fastest killing divine ability. He condensed a large palm imprint and slammed it towards the castles of the Black Martial Hall. The castles were all filled with the martial artists of the Black Martial Hall. I will go after Ji Mingyao. As a matter of fact, Lu Li was also holding back his anger. He didn't want to kill these low-level warriors. Killing did not bring him pleasure. The people of the Ji family had schemed against him again and again, which made him very angry at the Ji family. He wished he could kill his way into the Ji family and wipe out the Samsara Palace. I'll go with you. Hu Lang dared not to let Lu Li leave by himself. Before he left, he said to the dozens of noble Lord Realm warriors, "Listen to the state counselor. Warriors can be killed, but civilians cannot be harmed. After chasing for 6 hours, we'll meet up at the Central Sky Dragon City." They almost died this time. Dozens of noble Lord Realm warriors of the Silver Wolf Mountain were killed. Naturally, Hu Lang would not give up the chance to get back at them. He left more than 50 warriors at the peak of the noble Lord Realm to chase after them for 3 days. As for how many warriors of the Black Martial Hall could escape, Hu Lang didn't care. He sped up to the limit and chased after Lu Li, only to realize that Lu Li was faster than him. Hu Lang curled his lips. Lu Li was a freak. How fast would he be when Lu Li reached the human sovereign realm? Hu Lang flew to the south. On their way, they ran into some fleeing warriors. Lu Li didn't kill them, but Hu Lang didn't hesitate to kill them all. Hu Lang expanded their psychic power to the extreme, trying to find Ji Mingyao and the others. They didn't run for long. It was just that Lu Li was ahead of them for the time for half an incense stick to burn. Theoretically speaking, they couldn't have gone far. At most, they could have gone more than 300,000 miles. However, Lu Li and Hu Lang flew for hundreds of thousands of miles, but they still couldn't catch up with them. Lu Li's eyes flickered. He stopped on the spot and looked at Hu Lang, who was behind him. Both of them frowned. Clearly, they were going in the wrong direction. Ji Mingyao must have changed her direction after running for a while. Otherwise, Hu Lang and Hu Lang would have caught up with her. The most powerful of the four was only at the later stage of the Noble Lord realm, so they couldn't be fast. If it didn't go to the south, then they had to go to the east and the west. The east was the direction of the Central Plains. Recluse Solar Dragon had gone there. Hu Lang thought about it and said, "Should we go to the east?" "No, to the west." Lu Li shook his head and said, "Ji Mingyao is a smart girl. Logically speaking, they will go to the Central Plains. But smart people don't like to play by the rules. So to the west." "All right," Hu Lang nodded. It was a gamble anyway. It all depended on their luck. The longer they waited, the harder it would be to find them. This was not the Cloud's plains, not their territory. Hu Lang and Hu Lang dashed toward the west in a blur at the top of their speed. They flew parallel to each other with a distance of 30 miles. This way, it would be easier to find them. After flying for an hour, Hu Lang suddenly roared, "Where do you think you're going?" "We caught up with them." Lu Li was overjoyed. He rushed toward Hu Lang and saw that Hu Lang was chasing after 3 people, all of them males. Lu Li didn't go after Hu Lang. He sneered and used psychic power to check around while he circled around. After a while, he noticed some movement of inhibition formations in a small valley. Lu Li sneered. He shot a ray of Xian energy at the valley. Bang! The inhibition formations in the valley glowed, and then the view changed. A beautiful girl stood there, looking at Lu Li with a pitiful look, and said, "Young Master Lu, why are you so ruthless? I am a young lady of the immediate Ji family. Killing me will do you no good." "Ha ha." Lu Li smiled. Ji Mingyao was only at the later stage of the Noble Lord realm, so she was not a threat to him. Hu Lang will be back soon. Lu Li wasn't afraid that Ji Mingyao would play tricks on him. He said, "Killing you will do us no good indeed. But you almost killed me today. If I get back at you, I will not be able to vent my anger. What do you think I should do?" Ji Mingyao's fear grew. Her pitiful look could soften any man's heart. She crossed her arms in front of her chest, squeezing her breasts even more. Looking at Lu Li with a pitiful look, she said, "Young Master Lu, you are a generous man. Can you spare my life this time? As long as you don't kill me, as long as you don't taint my body, I will promise you anything." "Taint your body?" The smile on Lu Li's face grew wider. If it were any other man, he or she would be aroused and force himself on Ji Mingyao. Lu Li had been tricked by Ji Mingtian before, so he knew very well that the sisters were vicious. They must be putting on a show as well. Their purpose was to force him to do it. A beautiful woman's body was a lethal weapon that could kill many heroes unknowingly. Lu Li believed that Ji Mingyao must have something up her sleeve. If he were to force himself on her, he might die without knowing why. Chapter 623. The Grand Master of the Demon-Slaying Hall would protect Lu Li for 10 years. The 12 royal families of the Central Plains wouldn't have the courage to kill Lu Li openly. Similarly, Lu Li didn't want to antagonize the 12 royal families too much. Killing disciples of the 12 royal families would enrage them. For example, if he killed Ji Mingyao, the Ji family would be enraged. They might not go after Lu Li, but they would send someone to the northern desert and the Clouds plains to kill a group of people for revenge. That was something the Ji family could do. Therefore, Lu Li's desire to kill Ji Mingyao had diminished. That being said, he would not let Ji Mingyao go. After some thoughts, he said coldly, "Ji Mingyao, I can spare your life. Take off your clothes." "Take off my clothes?" Ji Mingyao was stunned. Then she said with shame and anger, "Lu Li, what are you thinking? How dare you defile me? I will not let you go even if I become a ghost." "Ha ha." Lu Li laughed. He was certain now. Ji Mingyao was seducing him on purpose. She had been emphasizing that he should not defile her body. As a matter of fact, She wanted him to rape her. Lu Li would not believe that there was no trick in this. Lu Li pulled a long face. He took out his divine weapon of Dragon King and shouted, "Die or take off your clothes. Make your choice. I will give you the time for 10 breaths." Ji Mingyao's eyes flickered. She wanted Lu Li to rape her, but that didn't mean she could let him do whatever he wanted. How could she, the eldest daughter of the Ji clan, do such a thing in the wilderness, completely naked? She made up her mind and said, "Lu Li, if you want to kill me, then do it." A disciple of the Ji family would rather die than be humiliated. Buzzing, Lu Li didn't hold back. He used his psychic power to attack at Ji Mingyao's soul pond. Outside her soul pond, as expected, there was a piece of treasure to protect her soul. A blue shield enveloped her soul and blocked Lu Li's psychic power. The piece of treasure was strong, but it didn't mean much to Lu Li. He changed the mode of attack of psychic power into vibrating waves. He sent them into Ji Mingyao's soul pond and began to attack at her soul. Ji Mingyao's soul was impacted, and she felt a sharp pain. She squatted down, held her head, waved her hand in pain, and said, "Lu Li, stop. I will take it off." Lu Li mockingly stopped his soul shock and coldly stood in midair, like a cat watching a mouse. Ji Mingyao groaned in pain. Seeing that Lu Li was losing his patience, she undid her belt in shame and anger. Seeing a woman take off her clothes was undoubtedly very pleasing to the eyes. If this woman was extremely beautiful and shyly took off her clothes in the wilderness, it would definitely cause many men's blood to surge and their bestial instincts to erupt. Ji Mingyao looked at Lu Li pitifully with grievances. Tears welled up in her big eyes. If it were not for the fact that Lu Li knew this girl was as vicious as Ji Mingtian, he might have been fooled by her and pounced on her. As her clothes fell off one by one, a perfect body was gradually revealed. Ji Mingyao only had a pink dudu on. Her slender legs and smooth shoulders were completely exposed. Her ample breasts pushed up the dudu. A small part of her breast was exposed, giving off a pink luster. "Lu Li, is that all?" Ji Mingyao looked at Lu Li with a pitiful look. Her shy expression could make any man feel tender affection for her. Her face turned bright red, and her skin glowed with a faint pink luster. She was like a ripe peach that people couldn't help but want to take a few bites of. Lu Li gulped out of instinct. He stared at her, but inside he was sneering. Ji Mingyao had begun to use her seductive skill on him invisibly. Through the hag race, Lu Li had gained some understanding of seductive skills. His soul was strong, and his resistance was enhanced. Naturally, Ji Mingyao's tricks could not fool him. He shouted, waved the divine weapon of Dragon King in his hand, and said, "Not enough. Go on." Ji Mingyao bit her lips. Her body trembled, and her breasts bounced up and down. After a moment of hesitation, she pulled the band on the back of her neck and pulled off the dudu. But she quickly covered up her breasts and her breasts. She really is a stunner. Lu Li nodded to himself. Ji Mingtian was even more beautiful than Ji Mingyao. He wondered if Ji Mingtian would be more attractive without her clothes on. Lu Li sized Ji Mingyao up and down without the slightest scruple. He even circled around her on his fate wheel, admiring her beauty. Ji Mingyao was both embarrassed and angry. She kept staring at Lu Li. After a while, she realized that Lu Li didn't pounce on her. She frowned in confusion. Ji Mingyao was very confident about her looks. She also specialized in seductive skills. She believed that few men in the world could resist her seduction, unless that man was as lustful as Recluse Solar Dragon or he was a real Lu Xiaohui. At first, she was seducing Lu Li on purpose, trying to get him to have sex with her. She was confident that as long as Lu Li slept with her, not only could she protect her life, but she could also make Lu Li suffer. She thought Lu Li was lustful when he asked her to take off her clothes. She was waiting for Lu Li to pounce on her like a beast and rub himself on her. But he didn't. Instead, he kept circling around her. She was confused, embarrassed, and embarrassed. After a while, Lu Li finally said, "Give me your interspatial ring." Ji Mingyao's expressions changed. She had a bad feeling. She glared at Lu Li and said, "Lu Li, don't go too far. You can rape me, But you want my money? I don't have any treasures in my interspatial ring. Cut the crap. Luli forced his psychic power into Ji Mingyao's mind again. The divine weapon of Dragon King glowed in his hand as he said coldly, "Either give me the interspatial ring or I will destroy your soul." Fine, you win. Sensing that powerful soul energy was about to surge in from outside her soul pond, Ji Mingyao took out her interspatial ring and threw it to Luli. Luli caught the interspatial ring and whispered to Little White in his sleeve, "Little White, take out the ding of Barbarian God and put her in." Buzzing. Between Little White's eyebrows glowed. The ding of Barbarian God whooshed out and enlarged in midair. The lid was opened and a strong suction force enveloped Ji Mingyao. "Ah, Luli, you are despicable and shameless. You are worse than a beast." Ji Mingyao turned pale with fright. She would be an idiot if she still couldn't understand at this moment. Luli had never been charmed by her. He had never thought of playing with her body. She knew the ding of Barbarian God very well. Her sister, Ji Mingtian, and others were tortured in there. Once she was sucked into the ding of Barbarian God, what awaited her would be hellish torment. Whoosh, her body glowed, and a fire phoenix mark appeared on her neck. She was about to use her bloodline skill to attack Luli. She flew to the sides, trying to get rid of the suction force of the ding of Barbarian God. "Uh-huh." Luli grinned. His strong psychic power spread into Ji Mingyao's soul pond in the form of vibration waves. Ji Mingyao cried out in pain. She didn't have the time to release her bloodline skill. Unable to fight against the suction force, she was sucked into the ding of Barbarian God. Bang! Chapter 6:24. Standing naked in the ding of Barbarian God, Ji Mingyao was truly scared this time. Everything was out of her control. Hearing Lu Li's words, she turned pale with fright. She was a young lady of the Ji family. Even though she was not pure, she was a well-known social butterfly at the Central Plains. She had fun with many young masters. That being said, she didn't think she was a slut. Average young masters could never lay a finger on her. Just the thought of being raped by 1,000 strong men for a year sent chills down her spine. This was worse than killing her. After all, she was a young lady of the immediate Ji family. If the news got out, she would be too ashamed to live on. As for how to throw 1,000 strong men in and how could regular strong men rape her, she didn't even think about it. She was just trembling in fear. Things were out of her control. Humans would wear clothes the moment they were born. Wearing clothes on the body could keep them warm, cover them up, and give them a sense of security. Ji Mingyao was naked. Her interspatial ring was taken by Lu Li, so she couldn't make clothes out of thin air. This made her feel very insecure, and she was extremely terrified. It was pitch dark in the ding of Barbarian God. She couldn't even see her fingers in front of her. Even that could make a girl feel uneasy. Lu Li's threat made Ji Mingyao lose her composure. She was filled with fear. Of course, Lu Li wouldn't throw 1,000 strong men in. He just wanted to scare Ji Mingyao and get back at her. He hadn't figured out how to deal with her yet, so he retracted his psychic power and left her alone, letting her do whatever she wanted. Whoosh! From a distance, a man flew back. It was Ulang with 3 young masters in his hands. The 3 young masters were covered in blood. Many of their bones were broken and they were badly injured. Boom! Ulang threw the 3 young masters to the ground after he came back. He flew toward Lu Li with an obscene smile and said, "Young Master Li, why don't you have fun with that girl? She's a young lady of the Ji family. She's so pretty. I was going to stand guard for you." Hunting down 3 noble Lord Realm warriors was a piece of cake for Hulang. Hulang had come back just now, but seeing that Ji Mingyao was taking off her clothes, he didn't go and disturb Lu Li. Lu Li said casually, "A vicious girl and a pretty skeleton. What's so fun about that? You want to play? I will give her to you." I wouldn't dare. Hulang shook his head. He didn't even dare to kill the 3 young masters, not to mention play with Ji Mingyao. Lu Li had the protection of some big shots, but he didn't. If he dared to molest Ji Mingyao, the powerful warriors of the Ji family would come to the Celestial Wolf Mountain and kill all his clansmen. Hu Lang looked at the three young masters below and asked, "Young Master Li, what should we do with these three?" Lu Li glanced over and asked in a cold voice, "What are your names? Which family are you from? Answer me honestly or—" The legs of the three young masters were broken, and many of their bones were broken by Hu Lang. There was a human sovereign realm warrior up there. The three of them had given up on running or resisting. Hearing Lu Li's words, they glared at Lu Li but said nothing. Xiao. When Hu Lang saw this, he became angry. A whip appeared in his hand. There were many spikes on the whip, and he swung it down with lightning speed. He didn't dare to kill them, but he had no qualms about torturing them. Soon, the three of them cried out in pain. The spikes on the whip made them feel as if they were being pierced by steel needles. One of them lost his nerve and shouted, "I will tell you. I will tell you. I am from the Hades Society. My name is Yang Yu. My grandpa is the fourth patriarch of the Hades Society, Yang Hu." "Yang Yu?" Lu Li waved his hand. Hu Lang put away the whip. Lu Li asked, "What is your relationship with Yang Xian?" Yang Yu answered honestly after a pause, "Future family patriarch is my cousin." Oh, Lu Li nodded. He was troubled. Yang Yu is a disciple of the immediate Yang family of the Hades Society. The Yang family would go ballistic if Lu Li killed him. Lu Li looked at the other two. One of them said at once, "I am Zhao Ge. I am the future family patriarch of the Zhao family of the Crystal Palace." The other one added, "I am Li Gu, the future family patriarch of the Alliance of Stars." The Crystal Palace? The Alliance of Stars? They were the two forces at the south of the Serenity Plains. Lu Li had learned that the future family patriarchs of the two forces were so enchanted by Ji Mengyao that they lost their souls. It must be true. Otherwise, the two wouldn't have risked their lives to follow Ji Mengyao to the Black Tortoise City. Whoosh, Lu Li moved and hacked at Zhao Ji's and Li Gu's heads with his divine weapon of Dragon King, killing them immediately. He didn't have the courage to kill Ji Mengyao and Yang Yu, but he wouldn't show mercy to them. Even though the Crystal Palace and the Alliance of Stars were on good terms with the Tumulus of Universe, they still chose to invade the Cloud's Plains. Anyone that invaded the Cloud's Plains was an enemy. Yi Luo wouldn't say anything even if Lu Li wiped out the two forces. Crack, crack, crack. A moment ago, the two were alive and kicking. Now, they were two mutilated bodies. Their blood splashed on Yang Yu's face, which scared him so much that his teeth were chattering. Lu Li looked at Yang Yu with contempt. This Yang Yu is not as good as Yang Xian. He was a coward. Lu Li moved his divine weapon to the side slowly and put it on Yang Yu's neck. Don't kill me, young Master Lu. This is all that be *TCH Ji Mengyao's idea. I'm only here for fun. I swear, I have no intention of harming you. Yang Yu begged for mercy and pushed all the blame onto Ji Mengyao. His face was pale and his teeth were chattering. He was scared out of his wits. Lu Li thought about it and said, "I will kill you or not. It all depends on whether you are valuable or not. If you can offer me something or some information that I am interested in, maybe I can let you go back to the Central Plains." Yang Yu's eyes flickered. He was on the verge of tears. He was a disciple of the immediate Yang family, but he was a coward. The family didn't value him. What could he offer? Lu Li held the ding of Barbarian God in his other hand. There were even quasi-relics. How could Lu Li be interested in Yang Yu's things? After a while, Yang Yu thought of something and said, "I have an ancient skill related to souls. I got it from an ancient site. Young Master Lu, I heard that you are a soul warrior. I hope this can be of help to you." Yang Yu's interspatial ring glowed. He handed over a golden hide scroll to Lu Li. Lu Li put away the ding of Barbarian God and took it over. It was indeed an ancient skill. There were ancient characters on it. Lu Li took a look and confirmed that it was a skill related to souls. Even though he didn't know how powerful it was, he nodded and said, "This is useful, but I have many skills related to souls. This is not enough to trade for your life." "I have nothing else." Yang Yu pulled a long face. He didn't have a high status in the family. All he had was a holy grade weapon and a heaven grade defensive inner armor. He also had some pellets, mystical materials, and Xian crystals. Lu Li wouldn't be interested in those. Seeing the coldness in Lu Li's eyes and the surging killing intent, Yang Yu suddenly became cleverer. He remembered something and yelled, "Right, I know. Bodhi fruit. I know where to find it." Lu Li's eyes glowed. He didn't want to kill Yang Yu. He was just trying to scare him. Little did he expect that he would gain something. Chapter 6:25. Lu Li had sent many people to look for the Bodhi fruit, including the Du family. Lu Ling had been sending people as well. The Samsara Palace was the most powerful force at the Central Plains, and it had the Chamber of Commerce under its control. It was easy for them to get some information. They didn't know why Lu Li and Lu Ling were looking for the Bodhi fruit, and the Samsara Palace didn't know that the Bodhi fruit could cure the immortals' perish. Nevertheless, they remembered this. If the Bodhi fruit appeared at the Central Plains, the Samsara Palace would get it right away without giving Lu Li a chance. The Samsara Palace also told the Hades Society and the Pavilion of Blossoms, telling them to keep an eye on the Bodhi fruit and get it as soon as they found it. Lu Li could accept Yang Yu's explanation. Also, Yang Yu is such a coward that it shouldn't be a conspiracy. Lu Li asked, "Where did you learn about the Bodhi fruit? You know what will happen if I lie to you? I have a human sovereign realm warrior with me. When a man lies, his soul will tremble." Lu Li intimidated Yang Yu, and the latter said he would not dare. He pointed to the saber on his neck. When Lu Li moved the saber away, Yang Yu said, "I'm not sure about the details. Before I came to the Clouds Plains, I only heard that in a garden of the great Buddhist temple, there's a batch of fruits that are about to ripen. I think there are some Bodhi fruits, and most of the fruits will be auctioned. This garden is famous at the Central Plains. Every 100 years, there will be a batch of fruits that will ripen. Every time, it will cause a sensation. Young Master Lu, this information is absolutely true. If I lied to you, I will die a horrible death." Lu Li turned to Hu Lang, who thought about it, and said, "The great Buddhist temple does have a famous garden. In the past, the great Buddhist temple was not powerful. But because of the garden, powerful warriors have been trained. Over the past thousands of years, the great Buddhist temple has been rising rapidly. Now, it ranks among the top 5 at the Central Plains." Lu Li turned to Yang Yu and asked, "Do you know when the great Buddhist temple is going to auction the fruits?" "Yes," Yang Yu said with certainty, "in 2.5 months, September 19th of the Central Plains." Hu Lang did some calculations and said, "If I am right, it will be in 2.5 months. Okay." Lu Li took out the ding of Barbarian God and took Yang Yu's interspatial ring and let Little White put Yang Yu in. He then took Li Gu's and Li Gu's interspatial rings and threw their corpses into them. Only then did he grab the shrunken ding of Barbarian God in satisfaction. Ji Mengyao was in a state of panic. All of a sudden, someone flew in. She thought Lu Li had brought a strong man in to rape her. 2 black phoenix marks immediately appeared on her neck. She was about to attack, but she only stopped when she discovered that it was Yang Yu with her divine telekinesis. Yang Yu? Soon, Ji Mengyao realized something. She was still naked. She had always looked down on Yang Yu, the good-for-nothing. She wouldn't even let him touch her fingers. How could she be standing in front of him naked? Yang Yu smashed into the ding of Barbarian God and hurt his wounds. He groaned and grimaced in pain. Hearing Ji Mengyao scream, he glanced over with his spiritual power. Both of them were dumbfounded. Yang Yu opened his mouth wide. He saw that Ji Mengyao was covering her breasts with one hand and her secret area with the other. Even though he was badly injured, he could not help but have some reaction. Ji Mengyao was about to go crazy. She had always looked down on Yang Yu, but now she was so pathetic in front of him. He was watching for free, which made her feel embarrassed, angry, and humiliated. She even wanted to die. Boom! 2 shadows smashed in. Ji Mengyao thought it was more people, which drove her even more crazy. She was relieved to find 2 dead bodies with psychic power. "No, Lu Li, you bastard, you devil." Ji Mingyao's pupils contracted. She recognized that the 2 bodies were Li Gu and Zhao Ge. A while ago, they were still in love with her. In a blink of an eye, they had become cold corpses. Ji Mingyao finally understood how Lu Li was going to torture her. He was going to take off her clothes, take off her interspatial ring, throw in Yangyu and 2 dead bodies. The 2 bodies belonged to men who used to be in a relationship with her. Was Luli going to imprison her for some time to drive her crazy? Ji Mingyao was having a nervous breakdown. All her interspatial rings were taken away by Lu Li. She had to stay naked. Yang Yu, Li Gu, and Zhao Ge were all whipped. Their robes were torn. Even if they were taken from the dead bodies, they would not be able to hide anything, not to mention that their robes were covered in blood. Without interspatial rings, there would be no food and water. Their realms were enough for them to go without food and water for a month. But what about peeing and defecating? Ji Mingyao lost her mind thinking about defecating in front of Yang Yu and the 2 smelly bodies next to her. She released her black phoenix and attacked at the lid again and again. However, the Ding of Barbarian God was a quasi-relic. Average warriors could not crack it open. However, when the fire phoenix attacked, the lid glowed, lighting up the entire space. Yang Yu had a feast for his eyes. Ji Mingyao was releasing all kinds of attacks in a rage. She was swaying her body. Stop attacking, or else the temperature here will burn us to a crisp. Yang Yu noticed a problem. The black phoenix of the Ji family had a high temperature. There was only so much space in the Ding of Barbarian God. Every time the black phoenix was released, the temperature would rise. Lu Li, kill me if you have the guts. Kill me if you have the guts. Ji Mingyao shouted in grief and indignation. She saw Yang Yu staring at her from the corner of her eye. She yelled in anger. What are you looking at? You men are all rotten. I will gouge your eyes out if you stare at me again. Yang Yu looked away in embarrassment, but he was still sneaking glances at her. He had an open mind. If Lu Li wanted to kill him, he would kill Ji Mingyao as well. It would be worthwhile to die with such a beautiful woman. If Lu Li didn't kill him, he would be more than happy to be trapped here. Ji Mingyao felt that Yang Yu had been peeping at her. She walked to the 2 corpses with her teeth clenched. She tore off some blood-stained rags and wrapped them around her body. Though it made her more tempted, she felt better. She had deceived herself. Swish, swish, unexpectedly, in the next second, the lid of the cauldron shone brightly. Streaks of electric arcs flew around and struck them in an unending stream. Soon, their bodies began to emit black smoke. There wasn't much cloth on the 2 of them and the 2 corpses. All of them were burnt into black powder. Ji Mingyao was trembling. Her skin and hair were damaged. Many parts of her skin were burnt. Her hair was disheveled. She looked like a ghost. She was no longer a stunning beauty. Lady Mingyao, a mocking voice came from inside. You are so pretty and sexy. I can't appreciate you with your clothes on. I think it's better if you don't wear them. Well, I will go to the Samsara city later and leave you at the plaza in the city. Everyone in the city can appreciate your beautiful body. PFF. Chapter 626. Lu Li hadn't figured out how to deal with Ji Mingyao and Yang Yu. Killing them would bring him endless troubles, but letting them go would not make him happy. Lu Li might as well throw them into the Ding of Barbarian God so that they could suffer and vent their anger. Lu Li and Hu Lang discussed for a while and decided to carry out Lu Ling's plan. They would attack other cities until Lu Ling sent a message for them to go back. There were still 2.5 months before the auction at the Great Buddhist Temple started. Lu Li still had time. Also, he needed to send someone to make sure. What if Yang Yu was lying? What if it was a trap? Hu Lang flew to the Dragon City, where they agreed to meet. On their way, they ran into some warriors of the Silver Wolf Mountain. Lu Li asked one of them to go back and tell Lu Ling what had happened here. He also asked her to send someone to verify the authenticity of the Bodhi fruit at the Great Buddhist Temple. 3 days later, they arrived at the Dragon City in the central region with more than a dozen warriors. Hu Lang didn't wait for everyone to arrive. He went into the city directly. There was only one Ji Mingyao. This trap could not be set up twice. Not so many people could build such a horrifying formation twice. As expected, this time, the shield outside was broken easily. They killed their way into the city. Another storm of blood ensued. Warriors in the city were slaughtered. Blood flowed like a river. After killing tens of thousands of warriors in the city, Hu Lang left with Lu Li and the others. They stayed nearby and waited for everyone to gather. A day later, almost all the survivors at the Black Tortoise City had gathered. Only 2 warriors were missing. They might have arrived too late, or they were killed. Hu Lang decided not to wait any longer. He went back to the Dragon City and left by teleportation formation. He was ready to massacre the entire city. He didn't believe that the Serenity Plains army wouldn't retreat when the entire Serenity Plains was bathed in blood. Luli didn't have the heart to do that. Many families in the cities might not send troops to attack the Cloud's Plains, which meant that many families and warriors were innocent. Luli mentioned this to Hu Lang, but he didn't take Lu Li's advice. Hu Lang thought this was a war between the Serenity Plains and the Cloud's Plains. Now that the Serenity Plains army was at the Cloud's Plains, many innocent people would be killed. If Hu Lang didn't kill them, the Serenity Plains army wouldn't retreat. By then, more people would die at the Cloud's Plains. If the Cloud's Plains army was defeated, everyone would die. Many people at the Silver Wolf Mountain would be killed. Luli was speechless. He had to follow Hu Lang and the others. The only thing he could do was to forbid warriors from killing civilians. As for warriors, he would not stop them. Warriors' fate was death. Warriors must face death, and they must be with death and with the fact that they could be killed at any time. Just like that, they slaughtered city after city. They teleported all the way, and their speed was too fast. Moreover, they didn't have a fixed direction. After teleporting to a random city, they started slaughtering. With Hu Lang and Lu Li here, nobody at the Serenity Plains could stop them without a human sovereign realm warrior. Hu Lang had made up his mind. He almost died at the Black Tortoise City. He decided that if Lu Ling did not send him a message, he would raze all the big cities at the Serenity Plains to the ground. He would wipe out all the low-level warriors at the Serenity Plains so that the Serenity Plains would not be able to recover for decades. On the 13th day, they arrived at the Crystal City, the headquarters of the Palace of Crystal. They teleported in directly, so the shield outside didn't work. Hu Lang was the first one to arrive. He fended off the attacks from the noble Lord Realm warriors and slaughtered for a while with the force field. By the time Lu Li and the others arrived, the situation was under control. 6 hours later, the Crystal City was in ruins. At least tens of thousands of warriors were killed and hundreds of thousands of warriors escaped. Hu Lang ordered the others to hunt for them for 6 hours, and then they were ready to teleport to the Star City, where the Star Alliance was located to destroy the main city of the last force of the Serenity Plains. Bang! A jade talisman on Hu Lang's waist cracked. Lu Li breathed in relief. Finally, the killing was over. How many did they kill during this time? Lu Li couldn't remember. He himself must have killed at least tens of thousands. Lu Li didn't like this kind of killing because the difference in strength was too great. It felt like he was slaughtering civilians. Lu Li wanted to puke at the sight of blood. Let's go back. A glint of regret flashed in Hu Lang's eyes. He seemed to be unhappy that he couldn't kill people at the Star City. Hu Lang was a violent man. He wouldn't bat an eyelid, even if he had to kill tens of millions, let alone so few. Anyone that could become an overlord must have killed his way out of mountains of corpses and seas of blood. They teleported several times. When they arrived at the north of the Serenity Plains, they flew directly to the cave at the Cloud's Plains. This time, they had to hide their tracks. The teleportation formation could not be exposed. There was a passageway to the deserted world there. 2 days later, they arrived at the cave where the teleportation formation was. 2 noble Lord Realm warriors of the Silver Wolf Mountain were waiting for them. Lu Li asked as soon as he entered, "How is the war at the Cloud's Plains?" The 2 of them were obviously waiting here to pass on the military intelligence. One of them immediately grinned and said, "Very good. The Holy Maiden has a brilliant plan." The army of Serenity Province has been completely routed. 2 human sovereign realm warriors of the Serenity Plains were killed, and the other 4 were captured. They have joined the Empire of Cloud's Prowess and are at our disposal. Oh, Lu Li was overjoyed. Hu Lang, on the other hand, had mixed feelings. Clearly, he meant that the 4 human sovereign realm warriors of the Serenity Plains had taken the Fire Phoenix soul pellet and had become her slaves just like Hu Lang. Luli didn't care what Hu Lang was thinking. He stared at the warrior in front of him and asked, "Tell me the details. What is the specific situation?" The noble Lord Realm Warrior of the Silver Wolf Mountain said with admiration. As soon as the Serenity Plains was attacked, the Serenity Plains army received the news. Their morale dropped, but they didn't retreat. Instead, they marched forward at full speed, ready to attack the drifting cloud city. Saintis mobilized several generals to launch sneak attacks on the Serenity Plains. Every time, they would kill some and then run away. This made the morale of the Serenity Plains even more unstable. At the same time, the Emperor went out in person. He took several armies that were gathering at the drifting cloud city under orders. Flames of war raged everywhere. The Serenity Plains army suffered from our counterattack. After the victory at the Black Tortoise City, the Serenity Plains army finally retreated. The four forces of the Serenity Plains had internal conflicts. The human sovereign realm warriors of the Crystal Palace and the Alliance of Stars retreated first. However, they were ambushed twice by the Emperor and Saintis. They killed 2 human sovereign realm warriors and captured 4. Now, the Emperor is hunting down the remaining warriors of the Serenity Plains. I think they have reached the serene cloud sea. After a while, they will reach the Serenity Plains. The noble Lord Realm Warrior's explanation was not very clear or complete. Lu Li and Hu Lang did get the gist of it, and they had some inside information. The truth was not as simple as the noble Lord Realm Warrior made it out to be. Hu Lang and Lu Li looked at each other. They felt it was a pity that they couldn't join the battle with Lu Ling and kill the human sovereign realm warriors of the Serenity Plains themselves. "Sister, you didn't let me down." Chapter 6:27. Of the 9 human sovereign realm warriors at the Serenity Plains, 2 were killed and 4 defected. There were only 3 human sovereign realm warriors left. Needless to say, the Clouds Plains had one. It seemed that Lu Ling would not stop until she conquered the Serenity Plains. Lu Li and Hu Lang teleported back to the Clouds Plains through the teleportation formation. There weren't many warriors in the city, only hundreds of thousands, and only a few of them were at the Noble Lord Realm. Lu Li checked the Drifting Cloud Hall with psychic power, but didn't see Lu Ling. He went to the back of the hall with Hu Lang, found a familiar Noble Lord Realm warrior, and asked, "Where is Saintis? Is she not at the Drifting Cloud City?" The Noble Lord Realm warrior bowed and said, "Saintis has gone out with the army. She said that when you come back, you are to assume command at the Drifting Cloud City." "Assume command?" Lu Li frowned. After a while, he asked, "Where is the army now?" The old warrior answered, "According to the news this morning, the army has crossed the tranquil cloud sea. The Emperor has said publicly that he is going to wipe out the Serenity Plains." Lu Li was confused. He asked, "The army has gone to the Serenity Plains. Why do we still need to assume command at the Drifting Cloud City?" Lu Li turned to Hu Lang and said, "Great General, you stay here. I will go to the army and lend a hand." Hu Lang would not let Lu Li go alone. Hu Lang shook his head and said, "State Counselor, since Saintis has said so, we will wait here. Also, we have to keep an eye on the Serenity Plains and the Central Plains. Our mission is important as well." The old warrior said, "Saintis has said that this is an order. If you disobey, she will punish you according to military law." Lu Li curled his lips. Would Lu Ling punish him according to military law? He understood what Lu Ling meant. The outcome had been decided. It was pointless for Lu Li not to go. It would be safer for him to stay. Lu Li remembered that Lu Ling had 11 human sovereign realm warriors, and the Serenity Plains only had 3. The Central Plains could not intervene openly. Therefore, there shouldn't be any danger over there. Lu Li wouldn't be of much help if he went there. Never mind. Lu Li didn't want to get involved. He asked another question. "Have you sent someone to the great Buddhist temple to gather information?" This old man was Lu Ling's slave, and he seemed to be the chief steward of the Drifting Cloud Hall. Lu Li knew that Lu Ling often asked him to make arrangements. The old man nodded and said, "It has been arranged. Directly use the secret array to send a message to the people in the Central Plains." I estimate that we will receive news in less than 10 days. All right. Compared to killing at the Serenity Plains, Luli was more concerned about the Bodhi fruit. He decided to stay in the drifting cloud hall and cultivate for a while. As for keeping an eye on the frigid plains and the central plains, Luli asked Hu Lang to do that. Lu Ling didn't give him any special instructions. She must have sent someone to keep an eye on him. He didn't need to worry. 5 days later, the front line reported back that the army of Yinzhou had invaded Yuzhou and captured another Renhuang. The remaining 2 Renhuang did not dare to resist at all and fled all the way to the south. The army swept toward the Serenity province like a wildfire. Wherever they passed, all the forces and clans, big and small, left their cities to surrender. No city dared to resist. In just 5 days, the army had already conquered over 100 cities. It was only a matter of time before they occupied the entire Yuzhou. Of the 9 human sovereign realm warriors of the Serenity Plains, 5 had rebelled. 2 were killed, and the other 2 would escape from the Serenity Plains soon. Just like how Lu Li and Hu Lang swept across many cities, an army without powerful warriors would be vulnerable. No matter how many warriors there were, as long as there was a human sovereign realm warrior leading the army of 10,000, they could defeat an army of 1 million. At the Great Land, powerful warriors were the supreme beings. A powerful warrior could occupy a piece of land and have many vassal warriors following him. A powerful warrior could build a force easily. When the powerful warrior died, the force would collapse soon. Luli didn't pay much attention to the news. It was within his expectations. Now, it all depended on whether the remaining 2 human sovereign realm warriors would escape from the Serenity Plains, fight with their lives, or be captured by Lu Ling. Lu Li was not excited that Lu Ling had captured more human sovereign realm warriors. Several human sovereign realm warriors and dozens of human sovereign realm warriors were the same. Lu Li and Lu Ling were not afraid of forces outside the Central Plains. If the 12 royal families of the Central Plains were to attack, the Empire of Cloud's prowess could have 100 human sovereign realm warriors, but the outcome would be the same. 2 Earth Immortal Realm warriors from the Samsara Palace could defeat the Empire of Cloud's prowess. Of course, having more human sovereign realm warriors was beneficial. At the very least, it would be easier for the Empire of Cloud's prowess to train powerful warriors of the Earth Immortal Realm. The only thing on Lu Li's mind was the Bodhi fruit and Bai Qiuxue. As long as Bai Qiuxue could be saved, he would have no regrets, even if he had to die. Time moved on. 4 days later, there was finally news from the Central Plains. The chief steward of the Drifting Cloud Hall reported to Lu Li at once. There will be a large number of fruits being auctioned. It was confirmed that in a month's time, the great Buddhist temple would auction off a batch of fruits at the city of Buddha. This batch of spirit fruits were all top-grade spirit fruits. Each of them was priceless and had a heaven-defying effect. The news spread across the Zhongzhou and became a grand event in the Zhongzhou. Many big and small clans had already rushed to the city of Million Buddha. It was a pity that scouts from the Central Plains couldn't find out if there were any Bodhi fruits. Before the auction, all information was kept confidential. Only disciples of major families had the right to know. Lu Li took out the map at once after he heard the chief steward's words. He breathed in relief after a while. The great Buddhist temple was at the west of the Central Plains, not far away from the Serenity Plains and the Clouds Plains. He asked Hu Lang, "If we're going to the city of Buddha, can we teleport all the way there?" "Yes, we can," Hu Lang said with hesitation, "but it's okay if we don't go to the Central Plains. Once we do, the 12 royal families can kill us at will. The 12 royal families cannot invade other plains. But if we go to the Central Plains, it will be different. They can charge us with evil intentions and kill us." The chief steward agreed. "Normally, we will not go to the Central Plains. Even if we want to buy mystical materials, we will have to ask someone there to buy them. If you go to the Central Plains, you will not survive more than 3 days. State Counselor, don't worry. I will send many Xian crystals over. Saintis has given orders that if there are Bodhi fruits, we must get them at all costs. You are afraid of the 12 royal families, but I am not." Lu Li shook his head and said, "I will go to the Central Plains above board." Who dares to touch me? Even if I go to the Samsara city, the Samsara palace will not dare to touch me. They might even have to protect me in case something happens to me at the Samsara city. This is too important to me. I cannot afford any mistakes. Luli continued after some thoughts, sent a message to my sister. Tell her that I am going to the city of Buddha. If she says no, I will go alone. But both Hu Lang and the chief steward were in a dilemma. Seeing that Luli insisted, the chief steward had to send a message. Luli didn't care anymore. He waited for the news in the back hall. If he was not allowed to go, he would go alone. He must get the Bodhi fruit, even if he had to fight for it. Autumn snow had already been sealed in ice for 2 years. Her body was frozen by the ice, yet her soul was still able to think. Her world was pitch black, surrounded by endless ice. If it was any other ordinary person, wouldn't they have long gone crazy? I must go to the city of Buddha. Chapter 628. He sent a message to Lu Ling, but there was no reply from her. It had been 4 days, and there was no reply. Luli was getting impatient. He almost wanted to sneak away by himself. Intelligence came back from the front lines. The army swept toward the Serenity Plains like the autumn wind sweeping away the fallen leaves. 3 human sovereign realm warriors in a group would teleport over with other powerful warriors. They took over one city after another in a horrifying speed. In just 4 days, they had conquered hundreds of cities. The 2 human sovereign realm warriors went to the southernmost part of the Serenity Plains. They were going to take some mystical materials and Xian crystals with them, so that they could make a comeback in the future. They must take some mystical materials and Xian crystals with them, so that they could make a comeback in the future. If they dared to rob families at the Serenity Plains, they wouldn't be able to stay in the Serenity Plains anymore. Therefore, there was a 90% chance that they would run away. Lu Ling didn't send someone to ambush them at once. For one thing, the Serenity Plains was too large. She had to conquer it bit by bit. She couldn't spare too many people. For another, the 2 human sovereign realm warriors were unyielding. If they were pushed too far, they would have a life and death struggle. What was more, the 2 human sovereign realm warriors robbing families would make it easier for the Serenity Plains to be unified. Lu Li was getting impatient waiting at the drifting cloud city. 3 days later, Lu Ling finally sent a message. She allowed Lu Li to go to the city of Buddha, but he had to go with Hu Lang. At the same time, Lu Ling gave Hu Lang a secret letter and a book. Shrink skill. Hu Lang glanced at it a few times with excitement in his eyes. Lu Li moved closer and found it familiar. Then, he remembered and asked, "Isn't this God of Meng's skill?" When God of Meng first came to the Clouds Plains with Lu Li, he used shrink skill to shrink his body to the size of a normal person. Lu Li understood what Lu Ling meant. Hu Lang could learn shrink skill so that he could change his appearance and leave the Central Plains with Lu Li. "My sister asked you to follow me secretly?" Lu Li blinked his eyes and guessed something. Seeing that Hu Lang nodded, Lu Li understood Lu Ling's strategy. Hu Lang could learn shrink skill and sneak into the Central Plains to follow Lu Li. In this way, the families of the Central Plains wouldn't think that Hu Lang was on the same side as Lu Li. They would think that Hu Lang was the human sovereign realm of the Central Plains. Of course, Lu Li knew very well that she had Hu Lang with her so that he could die in Lu Li's place at critical moments. Lu Ling must have mentioned this in her secret letter to Hu Lang. After some thoughts, Lu Li took out the map, pointed to the city of Buddha, and asked, "How long will it take us to get here?" Hu Lang pondered for a moment before replying. "If we teleport there as fast as we can, it won't take more than 10 days. If we sneak there and take detours, it will take about half a month." Half a month? It's still too early for that. There was still a month and a half to go before the auction at the city of Buddha. Lu Li waved his hand and said, "Hu Lang, go and make a copy of the shrink skill. I want to study it and see if I can change my appearance. We will go as low-key as possible. It will be safer." "All right. Many thanks to the state marshal." Hu Lang was grateful. Lu Li was doing this for his sake. If he kept a low profile, Lu Li would be less likely to get into trouble and his chances of survival would be greater. Otherwise, if something happened to Lu Li, he would have to expose his identity, which would increase the possibility of him being killed. Hu Lang gave a copy of the shrink skill to Lu Li and went to study it himself. This was an ancient skill. It would be difficult and time-consuming to learn it. Lu Li told Hu Lang to study it for 20 days. They had to set off whether they could succeed or not. Lu Li went back to the castle and thought about the central plains. Suddenly, he remembered there were two people in the Ding of Barbarian God. He took out the Ding of Barbarian God at once to check. He was afraid that Ji Mingyao and Yang Yu might starve to death in there. Ji Mingyao and Yang Yu were in a miserable state. Yang Yu's wounds were almost healed. After all, he was at the Noble Lord realm and his body could recover quickly. But they were lying on the wall of the Ding of Barbarian God, exhausted. Their hair was disheveled and their eyes were unfocused, like two beggars. They didn't even have the strength to move their hands. Ji Mingyao was in a worse state. She hugged her knees and curled up in a corner. Her eyes were half closed and half of her body was covered by her burnt hair. Her eyes were filled with despair. Her breaths were slow, as if she could pass away at any time. Lu Li didn't have any tender feelings for the fairer sex. For a woman with a heart as cruel as hers, this was a light punishment. Fearing that the two would starve to death, Lu Li took out some water and food and threw them in. Bang! 2 bags of water and 5 or 6 pieces of dried meat were thrown in, which woke Ji Mingyao and Yang Yu up. They were startled out of instinct. Their eyes glowed. They checked with psychic power, and their eyes glowed. They had been deprived of food and water for a long time. They were extremely weak. What they wanted the most was to gulp down water and have a good meal. Whoosh! Yang Yu sprang up and dashed toward the water and food like a hungry dog. Out of instinct, Ji Mingyao wanted to follow him. But soon, she looked up with shame and anger. She sneered and said, Lu Li, what? Are you afraid that we will die here? I thought you had guts. Lu Li smiled and said, I am throwing food for Yang Yu. You're overthinking. If you have guts, then you can starve to death. I won't force you. Lu Li ignored Ji Mingyao after he said this. Eat or not. Yang Yu, on the other hand, began to eat. He was starving after not eating for a long time. Some dried meat was more delicious than delicacies. Gulp, gulp. Half of the 5 pieces of dried meat were eaten by Yang Yu. Ji Mingyao swallowed. Seeing that Yang Yu didn't stop and kept on eating, Ji Mingyao became anxious. She shouted, Yang Yu, do you want to die? Seeing that Ji Mingyao was glaring at him, Yang Yu came back to his senses. He threw her a bag of water and a piece of dried meat. Ji Mingyao didn't care about her image. She grabbed the water and gulped it down. Then she grabbed the dried meat and began to eat. Soon, she had a piece of dried meat, but she was still hungry. Seeing that Yang Yu had another piece, Ji Mingyao said fiercely, Yang Yu, throw it over. Yang Yu threw it over reluctantly. Ji Mingyao went on eating. After a while, Yang Yu's expressions changed. He walked to a corner, holding his stomach. He had not eaten for a long time, and he had eaten and drunk so much at once. Naturally, his stomach felt uncomfortable. There was no toilet here, so he had to do it on the spot. Yang Yu, do you want to die? Smelling a foul smell, Ji Mingyao used psychic power to check. She saw Yang Yu squatting down and relieving himself. Ji Mingyao almost threw up the dried meat. But soon, she became embarrassed because her stomach was tumbling as well. Neither of them had eaten for a long time. Neither of their stomachs could take it. After a while, Ji Mingyao covered her stomach with her hands. She squatted in a corner and emptied her bowels. She sensed someone was looking at her with psychic power. She was so embarrassed that she wanted to bang her head against the wall. She was born in a big family. Usually, she was elegant and reserved. But now, she was relieving herself in front of man. She had the urge to run away. But could she lose her temper like this? She could fly. Chapter 629. Lu Li put the Ding of Barbarian God into his interspatial ring and began closed-door cultivation to study the shrink skill. It was complicated but not too difficult. The principle of a shrink skill was to move the bones and contract the muscles. Even though it wouldn't affect one's movements, it would affect one's performance when fighting against enemies. God of Ming had said that he would be exposed as soon as he fought against enemies. The shrink skill was suitable for Lu Li and Hu Lang. After all, they were not going to kill people, but for the Bodhi fruit. If they could get the fruit with Xian crystals, there wouldn't be too much trouble. The Grand Master of the Demon-Slaying Hall would protect Lu Li for 10 years. The 12 royal families of the Central Plains wouldn't dare to touch Lu Li. If Lu Li showed up at the city of Buddha openly, the great Buddhist temple would be worried about him. Therefore, if the great Buddhist temple could get the Bodhi fruit, and Lu Li got it, he could show his identity and nobody would dare to touch him. In just 10 days, Hu Lang came out from closed-door cultivation. He had succeeded. He went to Lu Li for a discussion and then secretly went to the Central Plains by himself. It would be easier for him to be exposed if he went with Lu Li. Therefore, Hu Lang decided to go to the Central Plains secretly to protect Lu Li. The earlier he went, the better it would be. Lu Li continued to study the shrink skill. 5 days later, his body glowed in white light. Then his muscles and bones began to change. His body swelled up and the muscles on his face moved. His face was enlarged as well. Lu Li was not a tall man. When his bones and muscles contracted, he would become a dwarf. He didn't like it, so he decided to do the opposite. He swelled his muscles and enlarged his bones so that he could become a boorish man. He didn't shave his beard during this time. After the change, he looked like a mighty man. His temperament had changed as well. He walked around the room and looked at himself in the mirror. He was satisfied. The shrink skill was not a disguise. There was no trace of disguise on him. Even if a powerful warrior scanned him with psychic power, they wouldn't be able to find anything. Unless someone was familiar with his soul and qi, he wouldn't be afraid that someone would recognize him. When Lu Li walked out, the chief steward was startled. He thought someone had sneaked into the drifting cloud hall. When Lu Li spoke, the chief steward grinned and said, "This shrink skill is amazing. I thought it could only shrink. I didn't know that you could turn into a strong man." Lu Li took out a black armor and put it on. He stuck a sword of the heaven grade on his back and changed his hairstyle. He let his hair down on the back of his head. A valiant spirit was revealed. Ha ha ha. The general director laughed and said, "The Grand State Preceptor can change his voice and become a completely different person." Lu Li nodded. He thought about it and said, "Do you have any treasures that can shield my soul energy? If I run into someone I know, they can sense my soul energy. Go and give me a treasure so that I won't have to worry about being recognized by someone I know." The head chief thought about it, and his eyes brightened. "There is. The Lotus Society has a kind of sky soul elixir that can protect the soul pond. Only a human sovereign realm warrior with a strong soul can detect your soul. Not even an average human sovereign realm warrior can detect your soul." The chief steward sent someone to the National Treasury to fetch dozens of sky soul elixirs for Lu Li. At the same time, he brought Lu Li another bottle of pellets. The chief steward explained with a smile, "This is also made by the Lotus Society. It is called Sky Lotus Pellet. It can increase your momentum for a short period of time and make you look strong. Of course, it is fake. It is just to scare people. Young Master Li, take it with you." "There is such a thing?" Lu Li grinned. Scaring people was not bad after all. He threw the pellets into the bottle and asked, "Did the Samsara Palace and the Hades Society send anyone to the Clouds Plains or the Serenity Plains?" Yang Yu and Ji Mingyao had been missing for a long time. The Samsara Palace and the Hades Society must have received the news. The two of them were direct descendants of the Ji and Yang family. It was impossible for the two families to leave them alone, right? The chief steward thought about it and said, "Many scouts have come to the Serenity Plains and the Clouds Plains, but they're trying to keep a low profile. The Saintess said that as long as they don't make trouble, we will leave them alone." Lu Li understood now. After all, it was the Samsara Palace and the Hades Society that set Lu Li up. The two families were afraid that the demon-slaying hall would come after them. The two were still alive, and their jade talismans of life were still intact. The Hades Society and the Samsara Palace would not make a scene in public. They would only rescue them secretly. Since they wouldn't send anyone to rescue Lu Li decided to leave them alone. It was getting late. He said, "Send a message to my sister. I will go to the city of Buddha. She will have to worry about the northern desert and the inferno. The chief steward noted it down. He waved 2 warriors at the middle stage of the noble lord realm over and explained to Lu Li. These 2 are warriors from the Central Plains. Their names are Gu Min and Gu Yu. Gu Min is the 3rd young master of the Gu family. They are loyal to the Saintess. Let them go with you. It will be more convenient. Okay. It would be easier to hide his identity with warriors from the Central Plains. Looking at Gu Min, Lu Li said, "Young Master Gu, from now on, I will be your escort. You can call me Gu Li." Gu Min was in his early 30s. Born in a big family of the Central Plains, he was a gentleman. He cupped his fists and said, "Young Master Li, sorry for the inconvenience you have suffered for a while. My name is Gu Li," Lu Li emphasized. Gu Min corrected himself at once. The chief steward nodded. Lu Li waved to Gu Min, and the 3 of them rushed toward castle. Even though they could teleport to the Central Plains from here, Lu Li chose to be discreet. There must be scouts from the Central Plains in the drifting cloud city. He and Gu Min went to the castle and teleported to a cave at the Serenity Plains. Out of the cave, they flew toward the east where there was a big city by the sea. They could teleport to the Central Plains. The city was still under the control of a big family of the Serenity Plains. That being said, Gu Min was from the Gu family of the Central Plains. How could a big family of the Serenity Plains offend the Gu family of the Central Plains? This is the flying locust island that teleports to the Central Plains. That island is under the control of a 6th-rank family, and it is the territory of the Samsara Palace. But the Gu family often trades with the Serenity Plains and the Clouds Plains. The Samsara Palace and the Flying Locust Island know who I am. I don't think they will be exposed. Gu Min explained on the way. Lu Li nodded. He thought to himself that the chief steward had arranged a good person for him. It could save him a lot of trouble. They arrived at the city by the sea. Gu Min showed his ID token and the teleportation formation was activated. Gu Min was a celebrity at the Serenity Plains and the Clouds Plains. All the big families knew who he was. It was understandable that Gu Min had returned to the Central Plains when the Serenity Plains was in chaos. Lu Li was dressed like an escort. He was only at the peak of the Eternal Realm. He had a beard and looked like a rude man. Nobody gave him a second look. Buzzing, they teleported for a long time before they finally landed. Lu Li sensed the surroundings. The Shenxi in heaven and earth was much thicker. He knew that he was at the Central Plains again. The Central Plains was the largest and most prosperous land of the Great Land, the center of the Heaven Reverse universe. Many years ago, humans and tens of thousands of ancient races fought for supremacy here. In the end, humans won, establishing the glory of the human race. Chapter 630. Flying Locust Island was the territory of a 6th-class force under the banner of Samsara Palace. There were indeed many scouts here. As soon as Lu Li and the other 2 were teleported over, many psychic powers were locked onto them. Many of them retracted their psychic powers when they realized it was Gu Min. Several psychic powers scanned Lu Li, but they didn't linger. Lu Li sensed that there were not many powerful warriors on the island. Only 3 at the peak of the Noble Lord realm. They posed no threat. Gu Min must have teleported here often. He was familiar with every leader here. He brought Lu Li and Bai Xiaoshuang over for a chat, and then teleported away with Lu Li and Bai Xiaoshuang. Lu Li had been standing behind Gu Min in silence. His power at the peak of the Eternal Realm was not eye-catching, mainly because of his average looks. Dozens of warriors like him could be found on the street. When the teleportation formation was activated, no psychic power was sent to him. Lu Li knew he had successfully snuck into the Central Plains. This bone-shrinking technique was worthy of being an ancient secret technique. If he relied on disguise, he would definitely be discovered. The 3 of them continuously teleported to the north. The Gu family was in the north, which was also the sphere of influence of the Samsara Palace. However, the Gu family was only a 5th-class family and was not qualified to have a relationship with the Samsara Palace. After more than a dozen teleportations, they arrived at a medium-sized city. Gu Min and Lu Li found a tavern to spend the night. Gu Min went to the brothel alone that night. He was a famous playboy, so it would be weird if he did not spend the night with a woman. At dawn, Lu Li, Gu Min, and the others left. When they walked out of the tavern, they saw a small mark on the street. The small mark was inconspicuous, but it was the signal that Lu Li and the jackal had agreed on. Seeing this mark, Lu Li knew that even if Hu Lang wasn't in the city, he would still know his whereabouts. According to the itinerary, the three of them had to return to the Gu family's territory first. After all, Gu Min was representing the Gu family to do business in Cloud State and Yuzhou State. How could he not return to the Gu family when he returned to Zhongzhou? After continuously teleporting for 3 days, the three of them finally arrived at glorious ancient city, where the Gu family resided. In a secret chamber of the Gu family, Gu Min brought Gu Feihong, the family patriarch of the Gu family, to visit Lu Li. "Greetings, young Master Li." Seeing Gu Feihong kneeling to him, Lu Li admired Lu Ling's means. This Gu family patriarch was her slave as well. That being said, Lu Ling had to sell a large number of mystical materials from the Inferno and buy them secretly from the Central Plains. Without the help of several families, it would be troublesome to rely on people from the Clouds Plains. The Northern Desert did not have a controlling family in the Central Plains. Therefore, once the Pavilion of Delicacy closed down, they could not buy any mystical materials in the Central Plains. Since it was Lu Ling's girl, Lu Li settled down without worry. One day later, Gu Min set off with Lu Li and the 5 patriarchs of the Gu family. Gu Yu and Lu Li followed Gu Min as his escorts. Their destination this time was the Million Buddha City. The auction in the Million Buddha City was about to begin. It was normal for Gu Min and the others to go there when all the disciples of the big families in Zhongzhou were gathered in the city of Buddha. The territory of the great Buddhist temple was to the north of the Samsara Palace. It would only take 7 or 8 days to teleport there from glorious ancient city. Hu Lang didn't contact Lu Li again. Lu Li knew it was for safety reasons. The more Hu Lang contacted them, the easier it would be for them to be exposed. After 8 days of teleportation, Lu Li finally arrived at a big city near the city of Buddha, the city of 1,000 devils. There was still half a month to go before the auction. Lu Li was not in a hurry. The city of Buddha was a mixed bag of good and bad people. All the big families and forces of the Central Plains might be here. Lu Li decided not to go there for now, in case his identity was exposed. Gu Min stayed at the city of 1,000 devils and indulged in debauchery every day. Every day, he would take a different girl. 2 patriarchs of the Gu family went to the city of Buddha in advance to make arrangements and gather information. 5 days later, a patriarch came back with a lot of information. What disappointed Lu Li was the auction did not publish the list of items, so he was not sure if the Bodhi fruit would be on the list. As Lu Li had expected, all the forces of the 11 royal families of the Central Plains had sent representatives, including the Pavilion of Delicacy, the Samsara Palace, the Tumulus of Universe, the Lu family, the Palace of Heaven's Roars, the Pavilion of Blossoms, the Hades Society, the Iksha Race, the Red Lunar, the Palace of Immortals Inquiries, and the Life League. The 12 forces were all here, but they only sent their young disciples. Usually, this kind of event was a good time for the young generation to gather together. Usually, the older generation would not get involved. It was just an auction of fruits, not a war. It was a chance for the young to gain some exposure. It would be easier for them to hook up with each other, right? Lu Li had met some disciples of the 12 royal families, but not the young masters and young ladies of the Palace of Immortals Inquiries, the Life League, the Iksha Race, and the Red Lunar. According to the elder, the disciples of the various forces and royal families had all come. Many families had sent their future family patriarchs as well. Yi Luo was one of them. He was the future family patriarch of the Yi family of the Tumulus of Universe. Young Masterly, the patriarch thought about it and said something uncertain. It is said that Ji Mengtian, Yang Xian, Lu Xuan, and Dai Feiyu will be here as well. But it is not confirmed yet. What? Lu Li's eyes were wide open. He asked in disbelief, aren't they in the Blood Realm? How can they be out in advance? It was the Grand Master of the Demon Slaying Hall who ordered them to be exiled to the Blood Realm. Only 1.5 years had passed. Who would have the guts to let them out? I heard that they came out half a month ago. The patriarch said with uncertainty, "It seems that their abilities have improved in the Blood Realm, and they have suppressed the powerful warriors in the Blood Realm. Therefore, exiling them to the Blood Realm is pointless." Deputy Master asked the Grand Master to let them out. Their abilities have improved? Have they reached the human sovereign realm? Luli gasped. He didn't know much about the Blood Realm. But if the rumor was so horrifying, it was impossible to suppress the powerful indigenous warriors in the Blood Realm without reaching the human sovereign realm. "I don't know." The patriarch shook his head and said, "The information has been circulated secretly and has not been made public yet. Given my status, I can't get any inside information. I think we will have to wait until 2 days before the auction." "There is no smoke without fire." Luli smiled coldly. For him, Jiming Tian, Yang Xian, Lu Xuan, and Dai Feiyu were his mortal enemies. If he had the chance, he would definitely kill them. Luli didn't mind that some of them had reached the human sovereign realm. Nobody dared to go against him openly when he announced his identity. He was afraid of the Bodhi fruit. Yang Yu said that the Samsara Palace and the Hades Society were aware that he was looking for the Bodhi fruit. If Jiming Tian and the others really came to the Great Buddhist Temple, he could just ask the Great Buddhist Temple to sell the Bodhi fruit to them. In that case, Lu Li's trip would be in vain. Even if the Great Buddhist Temple didn't sell the Bodhi fruit to them, they could put it up for auction. They could offer any price. Lu Li had brought many Xian crystals with him, but could he compete with the royal families? Chapter 631. Since it had already happened, there was no point in fearing or running away. One could only deal with the situation as it came. Lu Li told the patriarch of the Gu family to go on with the investigation while he waited at the City of Phantoms. It was pointless to go to the City of Buddha now. He couldn't show his face in public, so he still had to rely on the Gu family's elders to gather information. Another 6 days passed, and the patriarch of the Gu family still hadn't come back. A waiter suddenly walked in from the tavern Lu Li was staying at, left a letter, and left. There were not many words in the letter. Only a few words were written. "The fruit will be sold. An old friend is in the Buddhist city." There was no signature at the end of this paragraph, but Lu Li could tell who wrote it at a glance. The handwriting was graceful and elegant. Lu Li had been studying it since he was a kid. It was Lu Ling who wrote it. "Big sister has come to the central province." Lu Li was a bit surprised, but he quickly rejected the idea. The Serenity Plains had not been unified yet. Lu Ling would not leave the Serenity Plains behind and come to the Central Plains. Lu Ling knew about him. She knew that if he revealed his identity, none of the 12 royal families of the Central Plains would dare to touch him. That was why Lu Ling was so relieved to let him come to the Central Plains. What was more, even if Lu Ling were to come to the Central Plains, she would go with him. Since Lu Ling had not come to the Central Plains, she must have been concerned about the situation here. He had sent people to investigate the city of 10,000 Buddhas a long time ago. They had obtained a lot of information and deduced some things. Only then did he send someone to send a message to him. Naturally, Lu Li trusted her information. The news that the Bodhi fruit would be auctioned cheered him up. He was afraid that the Bodhi fruit would be snatched away by someone else. He didn't even know who had the fruit, and he wouldn't be able to snatch it even if he wanted to. Of course, Jiming Tian and Lu Xuan were his old friends. He didn't have many old friends at the Central Plains. Lu Li sat in the tavern and thought for half a day. Eventually, he decided to bring his warriors to the city of Buddha. There were only 4 days left until the auction. It was time for him to go to the city of 1,000 Buddhas and figure out the situation there. Jiming Tian and the others had confirmed that they were coming. It was not a solution to escape. It was better to go and find out more about the situation. He asked Gumin to lead the way, and the group swaggered to the city of Buddha through the teleportation formation. After a flash of white light, Lu Li arrived in a huge city. When Lu Li arrived, he didn't use psychic power at once. Instead, he opened his eyes to observe the surroundings. After a few glances, Lu Li had a better understanding of the name City of Buddha. The first thing he saw was a huge Buddha mountain. To the north of the city, there was a steep peak that towered into the clouds. A huge Buddha was carved on the peak facing the city. The Buddha statue was at least 10,000 feet tall. Looking from here, it felt like a real Buddha was standing outside the city, smiling as he looked at the people in the city. There were statues of Buddha everywhere in the city. Luli noticed that there were many temples in the city, all of them splendid and magnificent. Monks and nuns in white robes could be seen everywhere. A nun. Luli saw many nuns walking on the street. He curled his lips. Were there not only monks, but also nuns in the great Buddhist temple? Would the monks and nuns there act recklessly? Gumin had been to the city of Buddha before, so he did not pay much attention to the strange scenery here. He led them to a castle. The city of 10,000 Buddha belonged to the great Buddhist temple, but not all of the properties in the city belonged to the great Buddhist temple. The army in the city was made up of ordinary warriors in armor. After all, it was not appropriate for monks and nuns to run a chamber of commerce and show their faces in public. Of course, all the families in the city were connected to the great Buddhist temple. Otherwise, they would not have the right to establish themselves in the city of Buddha. 2 patriarchs of the Gu family had rented a yard here. Otherwise, they would not have a place to stay when they arrived. So many people, Luli followed them along, keeping a low profile. He saw many young masters and young ladies from wealthy families in fancy clothes and riding on horses. All kinds of luxurious chariots and carriages were galloping on. The street was like a market, crowded with people. Luli and the others didn't take the chariots. There were many young masters and young ladies in the city of Buddha. Luli asked them to keep a low profile. Otherwise, they could offend people and cause unnecessary trouble. Clatter, clatter, clatter on a wide street. A luxurious chariot was rushing over from the distance. The chariot was being pulled by 2 Pegasi with wings, very beautiful. The Pegasi didn't fly. This was the main city of the great Buddhist temple. Other than Ji Mengtian and Lu Xuan, no other young masters dared to fly in the sky. That would be a provocation to the great Buddhist temple. The chariot was fast. The Pegasis might alarm the people in the front, and they moved to the side. Luli frowned, but said nothing. He stood on the side with Gumin and watched the chariot run away. A patriarch took a look at the symbol on the side of the chariot and said, "That is the symbol of the Yiksha race. It should be a young master or young lady of the Yiksha race. But it can't be the future family patriarch or the first young lady of the Phantom Chariot race." Usually, the higher the status of a person, the less likely they would do something like running around on the street. That would only bring shame to themselves. Due to their status, they would be very polite even to commoners. Yiksha race? The Yiksha race was an ancient race just like the Titan race and the Cyan Phoenix race. However, during the War of 10,000 Races, the Yiksha race had been on good terms with the human race and betrayed the ancient races. That was why the human race never did anything to the Yiksha race. The Yiksha race had always been powerful. It was said that they were connected by marriage with several royal families. That was why the Yiksha race lived a comfortable life and occupied a large area at the southwest of the Central Plains. Idiot, Luli thought to himself. The Yiksha race should keep a low profile at this time. Otherwise, if they angered the public, others could find an excuse to annihilate them. How could this young master or young lady of the Yiksha race be so ostentatious? They moved on. Before they arrived at their residence, a huge golden chariot whooshed by. 2 huge golden war elephants were pulling the chariot. Judging by their chi and energy, the 2 war elephants were at least of the 6th rank. They were as large as mountains, stunning. The huge chariot was like a moving castle with more than 100 noble Lord Realm warriors following it. Looking from afar, the chariot looked like a king on an inspection tour. Soon, the city became lively. Only disciples of the 12 royal families had the courage to fly in the air. Only disciples of the 12 royal families could enter in such an imposing manner. People from the Life League. A patriarch took a look at the symbol on the golden chariot and explained, "I heard that the future family patriarch of the Life League is coming. He is 29 years old and has reached the human sovereign realm. With such extravagance, it should be him. 29. Human sovereign realm? Luli was surprised. Anyone that could reach the human sovereign realm at such a young age was a rare talent. After all, not everyone was as freakish as his father. Lu Renhuang reached the human sovereign realm at the age of 20 and was regarded as a talent that was hard to come by in 100,000 years. That huge golden chariot flew directly to the mountain at the north. That mountain was where the headquarters of the great Buddhist temple was located. Only those with distinguished identities could live there. I suppose Ji Mingtian, Lu Xuan, Dai Feiyu, and Yang Xian are living there as well, right? Luli looked to the Mount Buddha in the north and squinted. The patriarch of the Gu family had some vague information. It was said that some of them had reached the human sovereign realm. Luli wondered how many of them had reached the human sovereign realm, and who was it? Third young master, is the auction going to be held at the Mount Buddha? Luli asked. Chapter 632. Luli, on the other hand, didn't want to admire those young masters and young ladies. If possible, he didn't want to see Ji Mingtian and Lu Xuan for the rest of his life. They went to the yard booked by the patriarch of the Gu family. It was not a big yard, not luxurious, but it cost a lot of Xian crystals to rent. All the inns in the city were now fully occupied. Even the courtyards of many small clans had been rented. During this period of time, the 10,000 Buddha city had more than 1 million people. Many of them were not here for the fruit because they couldn't afford it. They were here for the young masters and young ladies of the super families. This was a grand event. The 12 royal families all sent people here. Usually, they didn't have the chance to meet the young masters and young ladies of the 6th and 7th rank families. There were more disciples of 4th and 5th rank families. Their target was not the disciples of the 12 royal families, but the young masters and young ladies of 6th and 7th rank families. To put it bluntly, more of them were here to socialize and some were here to flirt. They hoped that they could catch the attention of the young masters and young ladies of the super families so that they could rise to the top. During this time, many taverns and halls were booked. Every night, there would be many banquets. Many young ladies lost their first night here. Of course, they wouldn't lose out. In the future, their families would gain enough benefits. Young masters from the super families were enjoying a good life. Many young ladies of small families would throw themselves at them, waiting to be taken advantage of. Even the air in the city of Buddha seemed to be polluted. Gu Min received several invitations at night. The Gu family was not far away from the city of Buddha. The Gu family had a medium-sized chamber of commerce, and they knew many people. Since the third young master of the Gu family was here, someone would invite him to a banquet. After Gu Min asked for Lu Li's permission, he took Gu Yu to the banquet. The other patriarchs went to other places to attend the banquets. For one thing, they wanted to gather information, and for another, they wanted to make friends with the families. The patriarchs of the Gu family were not Lu Ling's slaves. Only the Gu family patriarch, Gu Min and Gu Yu were. None of them knew Lu Li's identity. They only knew that this young master was of high status. Even their family patriarchs treated him with respect. Lu Li didn't go out. He stayed in the yard, keeping a low profile. Even though the shrinking skill could not be seen through, there were all kinds of people in the city, and there were many powerful warriors. He was not afraid that someone would kill him, but he was afraid that if his identity was exposed, he would lose the bid for the Bodhi fruit. Once Ji Mingtian and Lu Xuan learned that he was here to buy the Bodhi fruit, the royal families would definitely work together to suppress him. Could his wealth compare to the royal families? Lu Li cultivated in his room, keeping a low profile. Gu Min brought a young lady from a small family back, but Lu Li didn't mind. That was how Gu Min had always been. He would never arouse suspicion if he maintained his true nature. The next day, Gu Min and the elders went out to attend banquets again. They were extremely busy, but they did not manage to find out anything. They only managed to gather some information. For example, a rare dragon saliva fruit was being auctioned this time. It was said that it could help warriors understand ultimacy more easily. 1 month after eating the dragon saliva fruit, the chance of learning profound meaning would increase by 50%. The young masters and young mistresses of the 12 royal families had come for this dragon saliva fruit. Also, there would be more than 10 fairy mushrooms being auctioned this time. The effects of the fairy mushrooms were similar to the ascending dragon grass. The dragon saliva fruit was the best elixir for noble Lord Realm warriors to reach the human sovereign realm. One fairy Ganoderma could increase the chance of reaching the human sovereign realm by 30%. Luli didn't care much about this. Both the dragon saliva fruit and the fairy Ganoderma were good stuff, but they were not for him. Instead, he hoped that people would be distracted by the good stuff, and no one would care about the Bodhi fruit. The next night, Gumin came back with a young lady from a small family. But he came out again after he showed the young lady to his room. He went directly to Lu Li's room to report what he had learned. Gumin pretended to be careless, fearing that someone might pry into his room. He sat down and said, "There is a banquet tomorrow. Do you want to go with me and see the world?" Lu Li knew there were many hidden talents in the city. He stood on the side, pretending to be Gumin's bodyguard, and asked, "What kind of banquet?" Gumin's eyes glowed as he said, "Tomorrow at noon, a young master of the Yi family, Yi Rong, is hosting a banquet at the Misty Drizzle Pavilion. I heard that young master Yi Luo and young lady Yi, you will be there as well. They are the future family patriarchs of the Yi family." I got an invitation in my hand, and I spent tens of millions of Xian crystals to get it. Young Master Yi Luo? Miss Night Rain? Lu Li's eyes glowed. Yi Luo was one of the friends he acknowledged at the Central Plains. Even though Lu Li had been aware that Yi Luo was at the city of Buddha, he didn't dare to go to him. With so many eyes on Yi Luo, Lu Li would be exposed if he dared to go to him. He quickly made up his mind and said, "Such a high-level banquet? Tomorrow, third young master must take me to see the world. All right, get up early tomorrow." Gumin yawned and left. He was Lu Ling's slave, and he knew the relationship between Lu Li and Yi Luo. This was why he had spent a lot of money to get an invitation. He didn't think that Lu Li would actually be willing to go. Of course, Lu Li would go. How could he miss such a legitimate chance to see Yi Luo? Gumin's status was too low. If he bid for the Bodhi fruit, it would arouse suspicion. It would be troublesome if a random member of the royal family bid for it. If he could meet with Yi Luo and ask him for help, things would be much simpler. In any case, Yi Luo was the young clan head of one of the 12 royal clans. Many people would give him some face. However, the banquet the next day was lunchtime. The grand banquet would usually be held in the evening. Yi Luo and Yi might have been put out by Yi Rong to attract attention. It was possible that Yi Luo wouldn't attend because of his status. Of course, if it was a grand banquet, such as one hosted by Yi Luo himself, Gumin wouldn't be able to get an invitation. Even if he did, he wouldn't be able to get in. It was all up to luck. There was one thing that Lu Li was not worried about. Yi Luo, Ji Mingtian, Lu Xuan, and the others all held grudges against each other. Those old friends might not come when they heard that Yi Luo was going to a banquet. A banquet of this level wouldn't be able to invite those talented ones. Lu Li sat with his legs crossed and cultivated for an entire night. The next day, at noon, he set off with Gumin. This time, Gumin didn't bring Guyu with him. If he brought too many escorts, he might not even be able to get into the pavilion of Misty Drizzle. This time, Lu Li wouldn't be able to get into the main hall. He would have to wait in the outer hall and see if he could see Yi Luo so that he could say hello to him secretly. Gumin rode in a luxurious carriage with Lu Li at the front. They went to the pavilion of Misty Drizzle. The pavilion of Misty Drizzle was located by a lake, a large restaurant in the city. Arriving at the pavilion of Misty Drizzle, Lu Li could see from the distance that the door was guarded by warriors of the Yi family. For noble Lord Realm warriors were guarding the door, a testament to the power of the Yi family. Gumin showed Lu Li to the door with a smile. He presented the invitation and told them who he was. The 4 guards didn't suspect anything. They just waved their hands and said, "Young Master Gu, you can go in. Your escorts can wait in the House of Storm over there." Chapter 633. Nobody could stand outside the gate. Therefore, if they couldn't get in, they wouldn't have the chance to approach Yi Luo secretly. Gumin was smart. He cupped his fists and said with a smile, "Lords, this is not my escort. He is a cousin of mine. He is married to a young lady from a branch of the Palace of Heaven's Roars. He is here because of your reputation. He wants to meet you, young Master Yi Rong." Really? The warriors of the Yi family were in awe. Even though Gu Min married a young lady from a branch of the Palace of Heaven's Roars, she was still a young lady, wasn't she? Lu Li's attire was rustic, and he didn't look like a young master of a big family. That being said, Gu Min was a man of his stature. One of the noble Lord Realm warriors of the Yi family waved his hand and said, "Then go in. You know the rules." Of course, of course." Gu Min smiled obsequiously with respect and led Lu Li inside. Gu Min gave Lu Li a hint. Lu Li put away the sword on his back. After all, carrying a sword on his back made him look like an escort. He didn't look like a young master at all. Lu Li sighed. He knew very well that Gu Min said he was a young master of the Gu family. If he was found out, the Gu family would be in big trouble. Now that Gu Min had said so, Lu Li would have to figure out a way to move the Gu family to the Clouds Plains or the Northern Desert. Lu Li had seen many grand occasions. Now that he had changed from an escort to a young master of the Gu family, he adjusted quickly. His eyes glowed. He stopped following Gu Min, and his temperament changed as well. He was like a young master now. He had no other choice. If he continued to pretend to be an escort, he would attract a lot of trouble. They followed a servant into the room. Lu Li winked at Gu Min. Lu Li put on an air of arrogance. He was going to pretend to be a taciturn young master who knew nothing about the ways of the world and let Gu Min handle everything. In this way, not many people would pay attention to him. Of course, this banquet was not of a high level. Ji Mingtian and Yang Xian wouldn't be here. Lu Li wasn't afraid of meeting acquaintances and exposing his identity. Soon, they arrived at a side chamber where some young masters and young ladies were already waiting. They didn't go to the main hall. Clearly, it wasn't time yet, and the young masters of the Yi family hadn't come out yet. A steward of the Yi family was in charge. Lu Li followed Gu Min and greeted him along the way. Gu Min only nodded indifferently and said little. Gu Min was a capable man. He chatted with the young masters and young ladies for a while before he took Lu Li to his seat. The Gu clan was only a fifth-rank clan. Although their clan's merchant guild had recently come up with many strange things and gained some fame, it wasn't enough to attract too much attention. Those rare items were actually mystical materials from the Inferno. Lu Ling asked the Gu family to sell some of them secretly, which earned the Gu family some fame. More and more people came to talk to Gu Min. Lu Li sat there coldly. Nobody was asking for trouble. Gu Min talked cheerfully and had a good bearing, which attracted the attention of the ladies. Young masters and young ladies kept coming in from outside, and the side hall gradually became lively. Of course, those who had come were all young masters and young mistresses from 5th rank and 6th rank clans. The true nobles were usually at the back. If it was an important person, Yi Rong would probably have come out to greet them. Lu Li lowered his head and sipped his tea. Actually, he had been paying attention to what was happening outside. However, he thought that even if Yi Luo and Yi Yu were to appear, they would only do so after the banquet. After all, their statuses were different. How could they have appeared so early? Time moved on. An hour later, there were more than 100 people in the side hall. Spacious as the side hall was, it was a bit crowded. The steward of the Yi family invited them to the main hall. Lu Li didn't resist too much since there were so many people here. If he kept a low profile, he wouldn't be noticed. The main hall was by the lake. There were no stone walls on the 4 sides. The hall was only supported by pillars. The walls were covered by translucent veils. The breeze was gentle, the willows were swaying, and the fragrance of the flowers was intoxicating. It was a nice place for a banquet. Yi Rong finally appeared. He looked a little like Yi Luo. He was handsome, confident, and had an extraordinary bearing. Of course, he was not as good-looking as Yi Luo. After all, Yi Luo was the future family patriarch of the Yi family. Naturally, Yi Rong couldn't compete with him. Lu Li took a look and saw more than a dozen young masters and young ladies in brocade robes standing next to Yi Rong. They must be from big families, or else they wouldn't be qualified to stand with Yi Rong. Gu Min and Lu Li were arranged to sit in a corner, not the first row. More than half of the guests were from 6th-rank families, and there were more than a dozen from 7th-rank families. It was good enough that Gu Min and Lu Li had seats. Lu Li didn't mind. He was only here to see if he could meet Yi Luo. He didn't care about anything else. Let the banquet begin. Yi Rong sat in the seat of honor. He waved his hand, and maids and servants came in one after another. They served delicious food and wine. But some people frowned. It was because Yi Rong said that Yi Luo and Yi you would be here that many people were interested. Now, they hadn't even seen them yet, and Yi Rong said the banquet would begin. Was he messing with them? Lu Li was disappointed as well. He hated banquets like this the most. He even had the urge to leave quietly. Yi Rong could tell that many people were unhappy. He raised his glass and said, "Future family patriarch and sister you promised to come, but they were invited by Lady Mengtian. So, I am sorry. Of course, future family patriarch might be socializing over there and will come over soon. Lady Mengtian's banquet is at the pavilion of immortals nearby. Let's enjoy while we wait." Lady Mengtian. The eyes of countless young masters became heated as they looked towards the west. The pavilion of immortals was also by the lake. But it was the best restaurant in the city of Buddha. Only young masters and young ladies from top families could enter the pavilion of immortals. Ha! Lu Li sneered. Ji Mingtian was here. He wondered if she had reached the human sovereign realm. Lu Li was relieved. Ji Mingtian and Yi Luo held deep grudges against each other in the small battlefield. It was possible that Yi Luo would come over after sitting there for a while. "Ladies and gentlemen, please." Yi Rong raised his glass and said with a smile, "I have invited you here because in half a year, the tumulus of universe will open up the tomb of swords. By then, many relic weapons will be unearthed. If you are interested, you could go to the city of heaven and earth. Yi Rong will welcome you with open arms. Truth be told, there will be quasi-relic on auction this time. It is a once-in-100-years opportunity." Lu Li understood Yi Rong's intention of holding a banquet after his lengthy speech. He had heard about the tumulus of universe before. It was famous at the Central Plains for forging artifacts. Half of the holy artifacts of the Central Plains came from the tumulus of universe. What? The hall was filled with noise and excitement. The tumulus of universe was offering quasi-relic for auction. Lu Li didn't care about the quasi-relic. He was just wondering why Yi Luo wasn't qualified to wear one when the tumulus of universe was offering quasi-relic. The young masters and young ladies in the hall were asking questions. The atmosphere became lively. So were toasting and chatting. Lu Li was bored after a while. He felt every day was like a year. After half a round of drinks, Yi Luo and Yi Yu still didn't show up. Inevitably, many people were disappointed. This time, they were here to see the future family patriarch and the young lady. Usually, they didn't have the chance to show their faces in front of them. Rustle, rustle, rustle. After the time for several incense sticks to burn, they heard some footsteps. Then came the voice of the steward of the Yi family, which made everyone excited. "Future family patriarch and lady, you are here." Chapter 634. Yi Luo was wearing a white robe that was whiter than snow. He had a warm smile on his face. He was an elegant young master. It had been some time since they last saw each other. His temperament was better than before. Many young ladies in the hall were mesmerized by him. It was hard to tell if they were really mesmerized or just pretending. Next to Yi Luo stood a stunning lady. She was not as beautiful as Lu Ling, but she had an air of nobility about her. However, the noble aura he exuded was extraordinary, giving off the feeling of a phoenix in the sky. He was like a star in the night sky, very dazzling and attractive. She was Yi Luo's younger sister, Yi Yu, the most important young lady of the Yi family. Lu Li thought Yi Yu was a nice girl. That kind of touching and affectionate look was able to stir up a man's tender heart. Everyone stood up to welcome the arrival of the future family patriarch and the most important young lady of the Yi family. Lu Li didn't dare to be too unconventional. He followed Gu Min to Yi Luo. Yi Rong was a bit gloomy. Yi Luo would always be in the center of the hall where all the lights would be attracted to him. Yi Rong reacted quickly. He walked over with a big smile, nodded to Yi Luo, and said, "Future family patriarch, Sister Yu, you are finally here. Come, let me introduce you to the talents and beauties of the families. This is Gong Sun Yu, the future master of the Fengyang Palace. There were 100 or 200 guests in the hall. Naturally, Yi Rong could not introduce them one by one. Yi Rong only introduced some disciples of the 7th and 6th rank families that were more important. He didn't mention some disciples of the 6th rank families at all. As for Gu Min, Yi Rong ignored him. Luli would not miss such a rare opportunity. He waited for a chance and suddenly said in a muffled voice, "Young Master Yi Luo, we have met before. Do you remember?" A group of people looked over, including Yi Luo, Yi Yu, and Yi Rong. Many people were surprised, and some even had a mocking smile on their faces. The Gu family was only a 5th rank family. Even if they had the chance to meet Yi Luo and talk to him, they shouldn't have said it in public. So many disciples of the 6th rank families didn't have the chance to talk to Yi Luo. Luli would be breaking the rules by interrupting. Yi Luo found Luli unfamiliar. He didn't mind since he was only at the peak of the eternal realm. But out of politeness, he pointed to Luli and asked Yi Rong, How could Yi Rong know who Luli was? He glanced at Gu Min, who hurriedly said with a flattering expression, "I'm Gu Min from the Gu family of the ancient god domain. This is my cousin, Gu Fenlu." Gu Fenlu? Luli was startled. What was Gu Min up to? Wasn't his fake name Guli? How did it become Gu Fenlu again? It didn't matter what the fake name was. Luli just wanted to take this opportunity to get closer to Yi Luo. When he saw Yi Luo frown, it was obvious that he had no recollection of this name. He quickly grinned and said, "More than a year ago, young Master Yi and Miss Yu passed by a small town. I even had a drink with the two of you." Huh? Yi Luo's pupils constricted as his mind raced. How could he possibly know Miss Yu? Lu Hongyu was the only one with the word fish in her name. Very few people knew about his relationship with Lu Hongyu. He did not have the chance to meet Lu Hongyu after the small battlefield, so the outside world did not know about Lu Hongyu. How smart was Yi Luo? Would an ordinary person mention Lu Hongyu in public? Yi Luo made eye contact with Lu Li. A glint of cunning flashed in Lu Li's eyes. Yi Luo understood immediately. He reacted quickly. He put on a gentle smile, cupped his fists, and said, "Brother Fenlu, I was wondering why the name Gu Fenlu sounded so familiar. I am ashamed. I will have to drink with you later." Swish, swish, swish. Many people looked at Lu Li, who grinned in an honest manner. He was satisfied with Yi Luo's way of handling the situation. Yi Luo was smart. He didn't show too much enthusiasm so that he wouldn't attract too much attention. He also indicated secretly that he had recognized Lu Li. Soon, Yi Luo turned to the others. They didn't find it strange. They were just envious of Lu Li's luck. Lu Li could establish a connection with Yi Luo when they didn't even have the chance to talk to him. After an hour of small talk, they all took their seats. Gu Min led Lu Li back to the corner. Lu Li looked at Gu Min with confusion. He didn't understand why Gu Min helped him change his name. Gu Min and Lu Li sat behind a golden table. Gu Min wrote 4 words on the table with wine quietly. Real person, missing. Lu Li finally understood. There must be a person called Gu Fenlu in the Gu family, but he had gone missing. It would be more convenient for Lu Li to act as this young master. Otherwise, he would be noticed if he met Yi Luo as an escort. Lu Li drank in a low-key manner. Yi Luo seemed to have forgotten about Lu Li. He drank with others and didn't ask Lu Li for a drink. This was a smart move. After all, a young master of a 5th rank family wouldn't deserve a toast from Yi Luo even if he had met Yi Luo before. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Right at that moment, there came more footsteps. The first one was hurried. A steward walked in and reported, "Future family patriarch, Lady Mengtian and Lady Feiyu are here." What? Everyone was excited. Who else but Ji Mengtian could make a steward of the Yi family so nervous? Feiyu was none other than Dai Feiyu. Ji Mengtian? A glint of coldness rose in Lu Li's eyes. He lowered his head, afraid to look outside for fear that the killing intent in his eyes would be seen by others. Yi Luo forced a smile. He stood up with Yi Yu and Yi Rong to greet them. Two fragrant breezes came from outside, and then two beauties that could cause the downfall of nations and cities walked in leisurely. The moment they came in, the entire hall seemed to be lit up. Many people stared at a lady in a yellow dress walking in front of them. Even they were short of breath. Luli took a look. Out of instinct, his eyes glowed. Jimeng Tian was still so dazzling and beautiful. Her yellow dress accentuated her perfect figure. Her hair was tied up in a flying fish bun, which gave her a noble and elegant look. She wore a yellow gem tassel on her forehead, which made her look charming and affectionate. Her eyes were full of charm. People could not help but immerse themselves in her and try to dig out the secrets in her heart. She was a stunner. As soon as she showed up, she overshadowed Yi Yu and all the other young ladies. If Yi Yu were the stars in the night sky, then she was the bright moon. Nobody could overshadow her brilliance. More importantly, after staying in the Blood Realm for more than a year, Jimeng Tian had matured. She had lost the childishness of a young girl. Every move she made could stir the hearts of all the men here. Human sovereign realm. Luli lowered his head to drink after a few glances. He felt bitter. She really was a freak. Being exiled to the Blood Realm didn't dampen her spirit. Instead, by chance, she reached the human sovereign realm. Chapter 635. Dai Feiyu was still as pretty as before. She was not as beautiful as Jimeng Tian, but she had a special charm. Standing next to Jimeng Tian, she didn't feel like a flower matched with a leaf. When they came in, Luli saw many young ladies pouting to cover up their jealousy. If Luli were a woman, he would be jealous as well. He was not as pretty as Dai Feiyu, not as elegant as Dai Feiyu, not as rich in family background, and not to mention the gap between their realms. The young master she admired was circling around Jimeng Tian, but Jimeng Tian didn't even spare him a glance. In this world, some people were born to be the main characters. They were the center of attention wherever they went, and the entire world revolved around them. Jimeng Tian was like that. There was nothing to be jealous of. Luli was not envious of her at all. This girl had been tortured by him for several months, hovering between life and death. At the moment, her sister was still locked up in the den of barbarian god. Luli lowered his head and grinned unscrupulously, thinking of how Jimeng Tian and the others were blasted by thunderbolts in the den of barbarian god every day. Young Master Yi, this is not right of you. You sneaked out halfway through the banquet. You are still unhappy with Meng Tian. Jimeng Tian ignored the young masters who were trying to please her. She looked at Yi Luo with a smile. She knew why Yi Luo left halfway. Yang Xian and Lu Xuan were all here. Even though Yi Luo didn't mean to be mean, he still felt uncomfortable. She came to greet him because Yi Luo left early. Otherwise, why would Jimeng Tian come to a banquet of this level? Yi Luo forced a smile. He bowed to her and said, Lady Meng Tian, as you can see, there are so many people waiting for me to entertain them. I can't be biased. Even though disciples of the 12 royal families were fighting fiercely in secret, on the surface, they were living in harmony. Jimeng Tian came here on purpose as if she wanted to bury the hatchet. Yi Luo was talented and he had the demeanor of a master. If nothing else, he would be the next leader of the tumulus of universe. Naturally, Jimeng Tian dared not to offend the future family patriarch of the Yi family. She invited him to the banquet and came here at this moment to settle the scores. Yi Luo and Yi Rong introduced some disciples of 7th-rank families to Jimeng Tian. As for disciples of 5th or 6th-rank families, there was no need. Those people were not qualified to talk to Jimeng Tian. More than half of the people in the hall stood up and surrounded her. Only some young ladies were sitting, pouting as if they were dissatisfied. A group of men surrounded Jimeng Tian like flies, throwing tantrums at her. Luli didn't stand up. Theoretically speaking, he should have gone over with a group of men. But Jimeng Tian made him uncomfortable. She had plotted against him several times in the past, which made him even more resentful. Now, he was surrounding her like a fly? How could he possibly do such a thing? He winked at Gu Min and asked him to surround them. He sat in the corner, keeping a low profile. Ji Mingtian would not be able to see him even if she was surrounded by a group of people. Ji Mingtian was the main character, while Dai Feiyu was the supporting character. She was bored to death and looked around. Suddenly, her eyes fell on Lu Li, who was sitting in the corner. Lu Li sitting alone was very eye-catching, so she took a few more glances at him. Dai Feiyu suddenly murmured. She felt Lu Li looked familiar, but he was a stranger after a closer look. She thought about it, and then used psychic power to check Lu Li. Lu Li sensed a strand of psychic power coming over. A glint of coldness rose in his eyes. He looked at Dai Feiyu, who looked away when she was caught peeping. Oh no! Lu Li's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that Dai Feiyu had sensed something and was suspicious because of her source of life bloodline? Clearly, Dai Feiyu was suspicious when she used psychic power. Lu Li reacted quickly. While Dai Feiyu was looking away, he took out a heaven soul pellet and swallowed it. Then, he picked up a goblet of wine and drank it down. The pellet was consumed in an instant. A surge of unknown energy went to Lu Li's mind and formed a protective circle around his soul pond. If someone wanted to check with psychic power, they must break through the energy circle around Lu Li's soul pond first. What is it? Ji Mingtian noticed something was wrong with Dai Feiyu. She turned around and asked. Dai Feiyu thought about it. She plucked up her courage, looked at Lu Li again, and said, "That man is special." Special? Dai Feiyu's words shocked many people. Many people followed her line of sight and looked in the direction she was looking at. Yi Luo felt something was wrong. Could Lu Li be seen through? Yi Luo used psychic power to check. He was relieved to find that there was some energy protecting Lu Li's soul pond. Lu Li was a different person now. His soul was protected. Even if someone were to check, they wouldn't be able to see anything wrong. Ji Mingtian glanced at it and frowned slightly. She did not see anything special. The peak of the eternal realm. He was average, relatively speaking. His looks were average. He didn't have the temperament of an average young master. There was something wild about him. He was not outstanding, either. Why would Dai Feiyu pay so much attention to someone like him? Lu Li drank leisurely, as if he didn't know that many people were looking at him. He acted like a hermit. He didn't show it on his face, but inside, he was getting anxious. At least 100 psychic powers had scanned him. He wondered if they had seen through him. Nothing special about him. Ji Mingtian couldn't hold back her curiosity. She asked Dai Feiyu in a low voice. Many people were looking at Dai Feiyu with curiosity. Dai Feiyu was confused as well. She looked at Lu Li and felt he looked familiar. But she couldn't remember where she had seen him. She didn't know why she was attracted to him. She murmured, "I don't know. I just feel that he is special." Dai Feiyu's voice was low, but Lu Li heard it. Seeing that many people were looking at him again, Lu Li couldn't sit still. Something would go wrong if someone were to check on him. Maybe some powerful human sovereign realm warriors in hiding would come to check on him. Ha ha ha. He threw the goblet on the table, wiped his mouth rudely, and stood up. His eyes glowed as he stared at Dai Feiyu lecherously. He said loudly, "Damn it, I have been keeping a low profile, and I have been sitting in a corner. I didn't know that I was as eye-catching as a firefly in the night sky. Alas, being too charming can be a troublesome thing. Lady Dai Feiyu, I am Gu Fenglu. People call me the girl killer. I suggest that you don't get curious about me. All the girls who tried to approach me ended up miserable." PFF. Almost at the same time, several young ladies spat out the tea in their mouths. They choked and coughed, blushing. Many young masters and young ladies, including Ji Mingtian, Dai Feiyu, Yi Luo, and Yi Yu, were dumbfounded. They had seen shameless people, but never like this. Everyone here was a young master and young ladies from big families. Who would speak so rudely? Girl killer. If Lu Li were Yi Luo and Dai Feiyu were a young lady from a 5th or 6th rank family, it would be normal for him to flirt like this. Lu Li was just a young master from a 5th rank family. He didn't have power, family background, or looks. How could he flirt with Lady Dai Feiyu in public? Chapter 636. Dai Feiyu paused for a second and then turned her head away. She didn't dare to reply to Lu Li because it would be beneath her status. Ji Mingtian frowned. She was a bit unhappy. She had seen too many people playing hard to get. They were all people of status. Naturally, she was unhappy that Lu Li was being so rude and vulgar. Yi Luo didn't say anything, but he was laughing to himself. As the host today, Yi Rong had to step in. He gave Lu Li a warning look and said, "Gu Feng Lu, drink your wine. Nobody will think you are mute if you don't talk." Yi Rong's words were a little harsh, but everyone understood. What would Ji Mingtian and Dai Feiyu think if the host didn't say anything to defile Dai Feiyu and Ji Mingtian? Many young men despised Lu Li. How could he behave so rudely at such an elegant banquet? Did he think this was a brothel? Lu Li shrugged his shoulders, sat down, and went on drinking. Just now, when he said those hooligan words, no one paid much attention to him. Instead, many people hated him. This was what he wanted. He would never be so rude and hooligan before. He was different from what he was now. In this way, Ji Mingtian and Dai Feiyu wouldn't think of his real identity. Yi Rong said something apologetic and Yi Luo tried to ease the atmosphere. Ji Mingtian's frown eased. She and Dai Feiyu sat down on a vacant seat. Those that could attend the banquet were all outstanding young masters and young ladies of different families. They were eloquent and sociable. Soon, the atmosphere in the hall was warmed up. They began to talk and laugh, talking about the state of affairs. Lu Li sat in a low-key manner. He didn't mind the unkind looks that came from time to time. It made him look aloof and unique. Ji Mingtian never looked at Lu Li again. To her, Lu Li was a vulgar and boorish man. Why would she care about someone like him? Lu Li was secretly delighted. He ignored the looks from the young masters and young ladies nearby. But after a while, Dai Feiyu looked at him again as if nothing had happened. Even though she looked away soon, Lu Li still felt uneasy. He wasn't afraid that he would be hunted down after his identity was exposed. But if Ji Mingtian and the others knew who he was, he would be in big trouble when he sold the Bodhi fruit. Ji Mingtian, Yang Xian, and Lu Suan were working together. It was impossible for him to buy the Bodhi fruit given his wealth. When a group of people gathered together, they naturally had to have a topic to talk about. Otherwise, it would be very awkward. A young master started a topic and asked if Ji Mingtian and Yi Luo were going to bid for the dragon fruit this time. The dragon saliva fruit was a rare fruit from the heaven and earth. After refining it, one's speed of comprehending profound meanings would increase by 50% within a month. For noble lord realm warriors, human sovereign realm warriors, and even earth immortal realm warriors, this was a great temptation. The later stages of cultivation were mainly about learning profound meanings. Yi Luo shook his head and smiled. "I'm not going to bid for the dragon saliva fruit. I think it's better to let nature take its course in comprehending the profoundness. It's not a good thing to use the heaven and earth treasures to comprehend the power Upanishads. Perhaps it will affect your future progress." Oh, Yi Luo's words piqued the interest of everyone present. There was actually someone who did not care for such a spiritual fruit of heaven and earth. Some people were deep in thought and felt that what Yi Luo said made sense. Ji Mingtian pondered and didn't express her opinion. Seeing that the atmosphere was good, Yi Rong naturally brought up the topic and led the crowd to express their opinions. Allowing this group of young masters and young ladies to speak freely was firstly to give them a chance to perform. Secondly, it was naturally for them to further interact with the disciples of the various clans and get closer to them. How could they miss out on such an opportunity? For young masters and young ladies from the top families were at the banquet today. The standard of the banquet was much higher than before. Now that they had the chance to express themselves in front of Yi Luo, Yi Yu, Ji Mingtian, and Dai Feiyu, they spoke with fervor and assurance and were in high spirits. Of course, there were 2 points of view. One was that the heaven and earth treasures were good for the human body and could help warriors improve their realms faster. The other point was similar to Yi Luo's. Maybe they were trying to please him on purpose. They believed that consuming too many heaven and earth treasures was only a temporary pursuit of realm improvement, and that it would affect their long-term development. Some of the hundreds of young masters and young ladies were good-for-nothings. They were showing off, exaggerating, and not getting to the point, and they were gloating over it. There were also some who had genuine knowledge, quoting from the ancient scriptures and making a lot of sense. Lu Li drank his wine leisurely and listened with great interest. Of course, he would not say anything. Gumin would not ask for a snub by expressing his own opinion. At the moment, he wished the banquet could end sooner. Jimeng Tian listened for a while and felt bored. She looked at Dai Fei Yu as if she was hinting that she could leave now. Dai Fei Yu didn't look at Jimeng Tian. She was looking at a corner with misty eyes. Jimeng Tian looked over and saw Lu Li drinking by himself. She frowned. Was Dai Fei Yu really attracted to this vulgar and boorish man? Jimeng Tian cleared her throat, which startled Dai Fei Yu. She blushed. Seeing that Yi Luo and Yi Yu were looking at her, she felt embarrassed. She thought of something and said, "Young Master Gufeng Lu, what do you think about this?" Swish, swish, swish. Dai Fei Yu's voice was not loud, but as soon as she spoke, everyone else shut up. Her voice was heard in the hall. Many people turned to Lu Li. **T. Lu Li was annoyed. Dai Fei Yu was so perceptive. He wondered if she had doubts about his identity, or was she trying to find out his identity through his words. Lu Li knew he had dodged the stares since so many people were looking at him. He stood up lazily and wiped the wine off his mouth. Many young ladies looked at him with disdain. Some of them even turned their heads away. I think Lu Li changed his voice on purpose, making it bold and boorish. His eyes were full of vigor. He made no attempt to hide his lust and greed towards Dai Fei Yu and Jimeng Tian. After the two glanced at each other, they both felt as if Lu Li had seen through their robes. It was very invasive and impolite. After a few glances, Lu Li grinned and said, "I think the profound meaning is like a *king, beautiful woman. If you want a beautiful woman, you must conquer her completely, both mentally and physically. If you use mystical materials to learn the profound meaning, it will be like using aphrodisiac to take over the beautiful woman's body. You can only have the beautiful woman's body, but not her heart. What is the point? What is the point of learning the profound meaning? Profound meaning is like a beautiful woman, and a beautiful woman is like a wild horse. If you want to conquer a wild horse, you don't have to ride her. You have to communicate with her mentally and make her let you ride her. Make her happy to be ridden by you. That is the point, isn't it? Ha! Ha! I'm an uncouth man, and I am babbling nonsense. Please don't mind me." Lu Li spoke slowly. When he finished, he looked around and saw that all the young masters were petrified. Even Yi Luo was dumbfounded. All the young ladies were blushing, ashamed and angry. Many were glaring at Lu Li with murderous intent. They wished they could cut him into pieces. Only young masters and young ladies from prestigious families could be here. They had received strict family education since they were young. They paid great attention to their appearance and words. Who would say such vulgar words in public in the main hall? Lu Li first compared the profound meaning to a woman and then to a wild horse. Flesh, aphrodisiac, conquering, riding, and even obediently letting you ride on his back, and letting you ride on his back. Chapter 637. True rich and powerful families were all nobles. Their children were particular about elegance, decency, and elegance. Therefore, they would instinctively resist vulgar and despicable things, even though they would sometimes do things that were even more despicable and shameless than those hoodlums in the marketplace. But on the surface, they were all immaculately dressed, refined, and refined. Even if they openly quarreled at the banquet, both sides would restrain themselves. At most, they would slap the table and challenge him to a duel. They would not curse each other like shrews, nor would they be as vulgar as Lu Li. The anger in Jimeng Tian's eyes was hard to hide. Dai Fei Yu's face was as red as blood. She turned her head to one side and looked regretful. She hated herself for asking so many questions. Yi Luo was speechless. If it were Lu Li who revealed his identity, nobody would dare to say anything. Instead, some young ladies would flirt with Lu Li in a shy manner. However, with Lu Li's current identity, it was not appropriate to say such things. It would make a group of young ladies feel like they were being profaned by a scoundrel. Yi Luo couldn't say anything, but Yi Rong was furious. Today he was the host. Someone was spouting nonsense and offending a group of noble young ladies. As the host, it would be rude of him not to step in. He was about to stand up and scold Lu Li and ask someone to drag him out. There were people who reacted faster than him. After all, how could some young masters let go of such a good opportunity to flatter and show off? Impudent! A young master from a sixth-rank family stood up first. He glared at Lu Li and shouted, "Lady Mengtian, Lady Fei Yu, and Lady Yu are here. How dare you talk dirty? Don't tell me that your Gu family has no upbringing? If no one teaches you, Lu Fu doesn't mind teaching you how to behave." The one who called himself Lu Fu was 25 or 26 years old and at the middle stage of the noble lord realm. He was arrogant and provocative. Clearly, Lu Li was only at the peak of the eternal realm, and he was trying to gain the limelight by overpowering Lu Li. Lu Li didn't want to fight, nor did he want to quarrel with this man. He just wanted to dispel Dai Fei Yu's suspicions. He would not pay attention to a nobody like him. Thus, he glanced at Lu Fu indifferently and did not say anything. With a cold laugh, he sat down and leisurely drank his wine. The situation was a little awkward. Lu Fu punched the air and was so depressed that he vomited blood. He had thought that Lu Li was a reckless man who would scold him or even fight him out of impulse. He could show off in front of Ji Mengtian and Dai Fei Yu. However, Lu Li didn't pay any attention to him. He pounded on the table, pointed to Lu Li, and said, "Gu Feng Lu, do you have the guts to fight me? We won't rest until one of us dies." Huff! Lu Li glanced over as if he was looking an idiot. Lu Fu came to his senses. His realm was much lower than Lu Li's. A duel would be beneath him. It would be like an adult bullying a child. An awkward expression appeared on his face, but he reacted quickly and said, "Your realm is a bit lower, so I'll let you have 3 moves first. I'll stand still and let you hit me. How about it?" This time, no one uttered a sigh. They stayed where they were and let Lu Li attack them 3 times. Lu Li was at an advantage, but Lu Fu was ready to risk it all. Many people were looking at Lu Li to see if he would accept the challenge. It was normal for young masters and young ladies to fight because of jealousy at banquets. Since there was a free show, it would be a waste for them to miss it. Yi Luo knew that Lu Li didn't want to reveal his identity, so he couldn't fight. Yi Luo cleared his throat and said, I don't think so. After all, this is the city of Buddha. This was the territory of the great Buddhist temple. Nobody from the great Buddhist temple was here today. Violence was forbidden in the city. Therefore, Yi Luo's words were reasonable. Nobody could tell that he was helping Lu Li secretly. Yi Rong wished he could chop Lu Li into pieces and feed him to dogs. However, Yi Luo was the future family patriarch. Yi Rong couldn't say much. Many young masters and young ladies present were disappointed. They had wanted to see how Lu Fu would beat Lu Li up so that he could vent his anger. Now that Yi Luo had said so, they were too embarrassed to say anything. "It's okay." Right at that moment, Ji Mengtian suddenly said. She had recovered and said with a smile, "I am here. The great Buddhist temple will show me some respect. As long as no lives are lost, they will not interfere. But do you have the guts to accept the challenge?" Yi Luo's expressions grew colder. Now that Ji Mengtian had taken a lead, it would be inappropriate for him to do it again. Otherwise, Ji Mengtian would be able to figure out Lu Li's identity. Everyone became lively. Lu Fu was glowing, high-spirited, and arrogant. He squinted at Lu Li, almost cursing and provoking him. Lu Li drank his wine without showing any emotion. His mind was spinning fast. Was Ji Mengtian trying to get back at him for profaning them with vulgar words? Or did she have doubts and wanted to find out his identity through his actions? Now that he was pushed to the edge, he could either admit defeat and let bygones be bygones, or make a move. Luli didn't mind if he made a move. He could kill a warrior at the middle stage of the noble lord realm easily. But Jimeng Tian could see through him easily. What was more, he was using the shrink skill. If he used too powerful a skill, he might be exposed. Seeing that Lu Li was silent, Jimeng Tian said again, "What? Young Master Gu, are you scared? If you are, then bow and apologize to young Master Lu Fu, and we will let this go." Jimeng Tian's further provocation made Lu Li angry. He stood up, grinned at Jimeng Tian, and said, "Of course I am. But it is boring to fight with young Master Lu. I won't get anything out of it, even if I win." Swish! Many people sneered. Lu Li didn't have the guts to fight. How could he make it sound so dignified? Before Lu Fu could say anything, Jimeng Tian said with a sweet smile, "Young Master Gu, you want to add some excitement?" "Yes." Lu Li put on a cocky face. He looked at Jimeng Tian lecherously and said, "If I win, how about you give me a kiss to encourage me?" "How dare you?" Several young masters pounded the table and stood up. Even Yi Rong stood up. Who was Lu Li now? Was he out of his mind? Was he not afraid that the Gu family would be destroyed? Many young masters here could turn the Gu family into ashes if they gave the order. "Ha ha ha, I'm just kidding. Why are you so nervous?" Lu Li knew he had gone overboard. He grinned and said, "If I win, how about you, Lady Meng Tian? Propose a toast to me later?" Jimeng Tian remained calm. She smiled and said, "If you can win, I will propose 3 toasts to you." Jimeng Tian's interest was piqued. How could a young master of 5th-rank family talk to her like this? He even insulted her in public. If he was not a lunatic, then he must have something up his sleeve. Or his identity was fake. She used psychic power to check Lu Li, but didn't see anything wrong. Lu Li's soul was protected by some kind of energy. She couldn't probe at will. Chapter 638. If Lu Li wanted to make a move, not even Yi Luo could stop him. But Lu Fu was not worried. After all, Lu Li had the support of the Grand Master of the Demon Slaying Hall. Nobody dared to lay a finger on Lu Fu now that his identity was exposed. Lu Li could do whatever he wanted. In the hall, there were golden tables on the left and right, leaving a large empty space in the middle. Of course, they were all at high realms. How could they fight here? Lu Fu walked out, threw Lu Li a provocative look, and said, "Let's go out and have some fun. Don't ruin the misty drizzle pavilion here." "No." Lu Li shrugged and said with a grin, "This is just a fight. Do you really want to kill someone? You want to stand here and let me make 3 moves? Stand here and let me hit you 3 times first." Here, Lu Fu narrowed his eyes. There were people on both sides, and in front of him were Jimeng Tian and Yi Luo. What if someone else was hurt? "Don't worry. I will just hit you 3 times. If you can survive it, then we can go out and have some fun." "Damn it. Are you a man or not? Why are you so hesitant?" Lu Li walked over to Lu Fu as if nothing had happened. His face was full of contempt. Lu Fu was enraged. His body flashed with light, and a set of silver battle armor appeared, covering his entire body. The armor was glowing. Needless to say, it was a holy grade armor. The Lu family was rich. Lu Li walked to Lu Fu. Before he mobilized his Xian energy, many people were staring at him. Lu Li casually patted at Lu Fu's chest and said seriously, "Be careful. I'm going to make the first move. Don't kill yourself." Lu Li's casual move was more like a caress to Lu Fu's chest. Lu Fu was cautious. He mobilized his Xian energy, ready to take the hit. Lu Li slapped at Lu Fu's chest as if he were swatting a mosquito. He didn't use any strength. He didn't even use Xian energy. "What do you mean?" Lu Fu's eyes flickered. He was confused and angry. Was Lu Li messing with him? Lu Li nodded with a straight face and said, "Good. Your defense is strong. You can stand my famous shadowless palm. I am impressed." Many people blinked as if they were looking at a lunatic. He didn't use any strength at all. Was this even considered an attack? Did Lu Li think he was playing house? Jimeng Tian and Dai Feiyu looked at Lu Li with a frown. They were confused as well. Was there something wrong with this young master of the Gu family, or was he toying with them? Yi Luo rolled his eyes, speechless. Luli was toying with him. If it were not for the fact that he could not reveal his identity, Luli would have laughed out loud. "Pay attention," Luli yelled and said in a threatening manner. "Now, I'm going to use the second move of my shadowless hand to kill immortals. Be careful not to be killed." Luli was still moving his hand gently. His hand was trembling, and his expressions were exaggerated, as if this move was really a horrifying one. However, there were many noble Lord Realm warriors here, and Jimeng Tian was at the human sovereign realm. They could tell with psychic power that Luli didn't even use his Xian energy. His hand was moving slowly toward Lu Fu's chest. He didn't use any strength. He didn't see any heaven and earth Xian Qi gathering, and there wasn't even the slightest fluctuation in space. As they expected, when Lu Li's hand landed on Lu Fu's chest, it was no different from swatting a mosquito. Lu Fu didn't even tremble. "You are pushing it too far." Everyone felt they were fooled by Lu Li. Lu Fu was filled with killing intent. He stared at Lu Li angrily and said, "Punk, you will pay for your stupidity soon. Don't worry, I still have one more move." Lu Li grinned, not worried at all. Before Lu Fu could say anything, Lu Li said with a straight face, "I see that you do have some abilities. There is no other way. I will have to use my unique move, the last move of the shadowless hand, soul-seeking palm." "Hoi!" Lu Li shouted. He waved his hands in a very pretentious gesture. Then, he lowered his head without looking at Lu Fu and slapped at Lu Fu's chest with one hand. Down. Many people in the audience rolled their eyes, but even more people were filled with anger and murderous intent. They were now completely sure that Lu Li was a psycho. Just like before, Lu Li didn't use any Xian energy. His hand pretended to be shaking, but there was no tremble in the space. Clearly, he still had no strength in his hand. "Lu Fu, slap him to death," a young master said in a vicious tone. They were all men of high status. Anyone would be furious to be fooled by Lu Li like an idiot. No problem. Lu Fu was about to explode. Seeing that Lu Li was about to land on his chest, he secretly mobilized his Xian energy. He planned to kill Lu Li as soon as Lu Li's hand landed on his chest. Lu Li lowered his head and continued to slap forward. He was still yelling, "Taste my soul-seeking shadowless palm de pa." When Lu Li's hand was about to land on Lu Fu's chest, Lu Li suddenly moved up and slapped Lu Fu's face with the back of his hand. Lu Fu wanted to mobilize his Xian energy to kill Lu Li, but at that moment his expressions changed. A surge of force came from the hand that slapped his face. That force turned into ripples and spread toward his soul pond. Boom, 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 boom. Streaks of powerful force shook his soul pond like lightning. His soul pond was not strong. It was cracked at once. Lu Fu felt his vision blacking out. He trembled and fell to the ground. Blood was still oozing out from his mouth. Lu Li's attack was fast. He slapped Lu Fu's face with the back of his hand. It only took the time for one breath for 27 layers of strength to go in. All of his 27 layers of strength had gone in, so Lu Fu didn't even tremble. Therefore, it was a strange scene. Lu Li slapped Lu Fu lightly, and then Lu Fu collapsed to the ground. He spat out blood. It was hard to tell whether he had been slapped to death or passed out. It was dead silent. Many people were ready to shout for Lu Fu to slap Lu Li to death. They were dumbfounded looking at Lu Fu lying in a pool of blood, not understanding what was going on. Fei Yu was stunned. Yi Yu's mouth was agape. Jimeng Tian was astonished as well. Even Yi Luo's eyes flickered. He didn't know how Lu Li did it. Just now, everyone was looking at Lu Li with psychic power. Lu Li didn't use any soul attacks or Xian energy or Xian Qi in heaven and earth. Under the watchful eyes of so many, he just slapped Lu Fu and he was lying in a pool of blood. Did they make a mistake? Or was it a ghost? Many people checked Lu Fu with psychic power. They were dumbfounded to see that Lu Fu's soul pond was cracked and he was in a coma. They looked at Lu Li as if he was a demon Phew, phew, Lu Li exhaled. He closed his eyes and put his hand back, signaling that he was done. Then he put his hands behind his back and looked up to the sky. He sighed and said, "Young man, you are the third person in the world that can force me to use my soul-seeking palm. It will be your greatest honor if you can die under my hands." The crowd was in a state of chaos. Chapter 639. What Lu Li did today was not for his own bad taste, nor was he trying to fool these people. He was trying to hide his real power and identity. He used shrink skill. If he attacked with full force, he would be exposed. But if he used soul attacks, Ji Ming Tian and Dai Feiyu would suspect him. He had never shown his soul-shattering skill to outsiders, so Ji Ming Tian must not know. He didn't use Xian energy because he wanted to confuse others. His physical strength was already strong. How strong could a warrior at the middle stage of the Noble Lord realm be? He could shatter Lu Li with physical strength at will. If Lu Li were to release soul-shattering skill with full force, he could even kill average human sovereign realm warriors. Recluse Solar Dragon was injured by Lu Li last time. If Lu Li used Xian energy, a warrior at the Noble Lord realm would have been killed. Lu Li's first two moves were to confuse others and Lu Fu. His soul-shattering skill was strange. He could shatter the soul pawn directly without any injury on the outside. That was why people were confused. They thought he had learned some evil skills of demons. Naturally, they wouldn't associate him with his real identity. That was the trick. Lu Li didn't use any Xian energy or soul attacks. Therefore, many people were staring at him. They found him to be profound and funny at the same time. Of course, nobody dared to laugh. Yi Luo reacted quickly. He threw the steward a glance, and the latter rushed down to take Lu Fu out to treat his wounds. "Impressive," Yi Luo exclaimed. Pretending to be friendly, he said, "Brother Gu, you are so skillful. I admire you. Brother Gu, please. Here's a toast to you." A maid brought a goblet of wine. Lu Li turned around and drank it up. He said carelessly, "Young Master Yi, you are too kind. I am just lucky enough to be apprenticed to a famous teacher." Famous teacher? Many people were intrigued. Most of them still couldn't figure out how Lu Li could shatter Lu Fu's soul pawn with just one slap. They were curious to know that Lu Li was apprenticed to a famous teacher. Yi Luo followed Lu Li's words and asked, "Oh, Brother Gu, your famous teacher is..." Lu Li smiled a mysterious smile, shook his head, and said, "My teacher is indifferent to fame and fortune. He's been in seclusion for more than 800 or 900 years. Before he went into seclusion, he was a man that shocked the world. 8 or 900 years. All the world?" Ji Ming Tian and Dai Feiyu looked at each other in astonishment. A big shot who had shocked the world 8 or 900 years ago. That was definitely a very powerful old monster. The demon-slaying hall had most of the powerful warriors of the entire human race. That being said, some old warriors did not choose to join the demon-slaying hall. Maybe it was because of his strange personality that he didn't like the constraints of the demon-slaying hall, or maybe he just wanted to live in seclusion and focus on pursuing the Tao. Ji Ming Tian and the others knew some secrets. At least 15 of the top 50 on the warlord list of Divine Land had been living in seclusion. Lu Li was delighted to see that Ji Ming Tian, Dai Feiyu, and many others were frowning, trying to figure out who his teacher was. His original intention was to mislead the crowd and lead them to make wild guesses, thus hiding his true identity. "Ms. Ming Tian," Lu Li looked at her lustfully and said, "You promised me 3 toasts." Ji Ming Tian came to her senses and smiled. She raised her hand and said, "Of course, I am a man of my word. Young Master Gu is so skillful. You deserve a toast from me." Ji Ming Tian downed 3 goblets of wine in a row. Her cheeks were rosy and her eyes were glowing. Others could not look at her in the eyes. "I have other matters to attend to. I will leave now." After 3 goblets of wine, Ji Ming Tian nodded to Yi Luo without waiting for Lu Li to drink. Then, she looked at the young masters and young ladies and left with Dai Feiyu. When she was about to step out of the hall, Ji Mingtian paused and turned back to look at Lu Li. Lu Li was looking at her with a smile. His eyes were filled with passion. He grinned and said, "What is it, Lady Mingtian? You don't want me to leave? Ha, ha, ha. If you want to see me, you can send someone to make an appointment with me at any time." PFF, Ji Mingtian spat. She might be angry, or she was just pretending to be reserved. She left with Dai Feiyu and disappeared into the hall. Yi Rong entertained some guests. "I need to go to the Buddha Mountain and meet a senior." Yi Luo stood up. It would be inappropriate for him to sit here all the time, considering his identity. He and Lu Li looked at each other, exchanged a look, and then left with Night Rain. Lu Li grinned and went back to his corner to drink leisurely. After all was said and done, he was a young master of the Gu family. His status was not high. How could he just leave? That would attract more attention. As soon as Yi Luo, Ji Mingtian, Dai Feiyu, and Yi Yu left, the atmosphere was not as warm as before. Of course, some people started to express their friendliness to Lu Li while others looked at him as if he was a dead man. Lu Li had offended many people today. He might have some frightening means, but he was only at the peak of the eternal realm. Neither could the Gu family, which was a fifth-rank family. As for the fact that he had a world-shaking master, many people thought Lu Li was bullshitting when they thought about it. If Lu Li had such a powerful master, how could he only be at the peak of the eternal realm? He should have been famous at the Central Plains. Several young ladies were smitten by Lu Li, and they kept making eyes at him. Two of them came over to propose a toast with seductive looks. It was time for the party to disperse. One by one, people left. Lu Li and Gu Min sat there quietly, waiting for the others to leave. Yi Rong left as well. Many people in the hall took the chance to leave as well. Soon, the hall was empty. Lu Li was still there. Gu Min looked at him with confusion. When everyone was gone, Lu Li stood up and said, "Let's go." As soon as they walked out of the hall, a steward of the Yi family came over and said, "Young Masters Gu, Lady Yu wants to see you." Gu Min was confused. He had thought that Lu Li was waiting for a secret meeting with Yi Luo. He didn't expect that Lady Yi Yu wanted to see Lu Li. "Let's go." Lu Li shrugged. He was not surprised at all. Instead, he admired Yi Luo's cleverness. If Yi Luo were to summon Lu Li now, some people would notice something was wrong. Maybe Yi Luo had really gone to the Buddha Mountain. A young master of the Gu family had shown his skills at the banquet. Then a young lady of the Yi family would come out to recruit him. It was normal. Lu Li and Yi Rong were taken to a side chamber. After the steward went in, he was taken to a secret room. At the door of the secret room, the steward threw Gu Min a look. Gu Min stayed at the door obediently. Lu Li pushed the door open and saw that Yi Yu was alone. He touched his nose in embarrassment, cupped his fists, and said, "Gu Feng Lu is here to meet you, Lady Yu." Ha ha. Chapter 640. Lu Li was speechless, looking at how curious Yi Yu was. She was not afraid of strangers at all, and she was trying to be familiar with him. Just now, Yi Yu gave him the impression that she was a dignified and beautiful young lady from a respectable family. He didn't expect that she would change so quickly. Lu Li didn't answer Yi Yu's question. He just asked with a frown, "Where is your brother?" "My brother went to the Buddha Mountain." Yi Yu stuck her tongue out and said, "My brother asked me to stay. You have a message for me." "Young Master Lu, you haven't answered my question yet." Lu Li's face glowed. The muscles on his body and face moved, and he changed back to his original appearance. Then, he explained, "This is an ancient skill. This is not a disguise, so you cannot tell that I am disguising myself. As for this skill, it is not mine. A friend taught it to me, so I cannot teach it to you." "Wow, that is amazing." Yi Yu's pretty eyelashes twitched. She looked at Lu Li carefully and said, "You look better now, right? Brotherly, what was that skill you used to hurt that man?" "It was so powerful." She changed from young Master Lu to Brotherly, and she moved closer to Lu Li, looking at him like he was a rare animal. Lu Li twitched his nose and asked with confusion, "Lady Yi Yu, this is the first time we have met, right? You are a young lady of the Yi family. Shouldn't you be more reserved?" Huh, huh. Yi was not embarrassed at all. Instead, she made a funny face and said, "This is the first time we have met, but I know you well, brotherly. I have collected all the information about you, and I know all the legends about you. My brother often tells me about you. You and my brother have been through life and death together. Is it wrong for me to call you brother?" Looking at Yiyu's bitter expression, Luli felt embarrassed himself. He grinned and said, "Yes, yes. Now that I have a sister, I will give you a gift." Luli thought about it and took out a red holy great soft armor and gave it to Yiyu. Her worry turned into joy. She smiled sweetly and said, "Brotherly, you are so nice." "Little devil," Luli exclaimed to himself. Yi Luo must have a headache with such a clever sister. He didn't forget to get down to business. It wasn't convenient for Yi Luo to meet him, so he could only let Yiyu pass the message. He instructed, "Go back and tell your brother that if it's inconvenient for me to bid for a spirit fruit in tomorrow's auction, ask him to help me bid for it. That spiritual fruit is called the Bodhi fruit. No matter how much it costs, we have to get it. I will pay him back how many Shin crystals he spent." "Yes, yes." Night Rain didn't dare to delay. She nodded and then tilted her head and said, "Brotherly, are you usually in the northern desert or the Clouds Plains? Can you take me out to play sometime? My brother is too strict with me. I'm not allowed to go out and play. By the way, do you have a small world that connects the northern desert and the Clouds Plains?" Luli was surprised. This had aroused the suspicions of the major families of the Central Plains. Of course, he would not talk about the deserted world. He just smiled and said, "If you want to visit the northern desert or the Clouds Plains, you can. Just tell me when you get there." It's not convenient for me to stay here for too long. I'll take my leave first. We'll meet up again after the auction." "Okay." Night Rain looked at Lu Li with hidden bitterness and said, "Brotherly, you must take me there or I won't call you my brother anymore." Lu Li left with a bitter smile. He didn't think Night Rain was annoying. It was just that it was not the right time to hang around with Night Rain. Others might get suspicious. Who knew if there were scouts from other families lurking around? He walked out and left with Gumin. The two of them went straight back to their residence. Luli had been thinking about the banquet at noon to see if there were any mistakes. He wasn't sure when he got back to his place. It was because Ji Mingtian was too smart. He had been in the limelight too much today, which might arouse Ji Mengtian's suspicion. As for Gu Fenglio's identity, it didn't matter. The auction was going to start tomorrow. It was too late for Ji Mingtian to look into Gu Fenglu now. She couldn't get accurate information in one day. What was more, Gu Min did say there was a person called Gu Fenglu. He had been missing for years. Even if Ji Mingtian looked into him, she wouldn't get much information. Never mind, it was pointless to overthink. Everything would depend on the auction tomorrow. If Ji Mingtian wanted to make trouble, he would do it even if he had to rob her in public. He didn't believe that the Samsara Palace would dare to kill him in public. In an elegant yard in Mount Buddha, Ji Mingtian and Dai Feiyu were drinking tea in a pavilion surrounded by flowers. They came here after they left the banquet. Ji Mingtian said nothing while Dai Feiyu frowned, as if she was still thinking about what happened at the banquet. "Feiyu," Ji Mingtian asked after some thoughts, "what do you think is wrong with that Gu Fenglu?" Dai Feiyu was still frowning. She took a sip of tea and said, "I don't know. I just feel something strange about him. He seems familiar and strange at the same time." "Familiar? Strange?" A glint of coldness rose in Ji Mengtian's eyes. She said, "Feiyu, do you think he is?" "Luli? Luli?" Dai Feiyu was taken aback. A glint of fear rose in her eyes. She remembered the days that she could not bear to look back on. She trembled. After a while, she shook her head and said, "I don't think he is Lu Li. There is no trace of disguise. Also, if he is Lu Li, why would he be so high profile? After all, this is the Central Plains. Also, if he is Lu Li, what is he doing at the city of Buddha? There's so many powerful warriors here, and young masters from different families are here. Isn't he afraid that he won't be able to leave? If he is Lu Li, he must be here to buy Bodhi fruit." Ji Mingtian put on a cold smile and said, "Now that I think about it, I feel he is familiar. It is very likely that he is Lu Li." Apart from him, who else would have the guts to trick us? On further thought, there were more flaws. For example, the Gu family was just a fifth-rank family. Unless Gu Fenglu was an idiot, he wouldn't have the guts to offend so many young masters and young ladies from wealthy families. It would bring endless disasters to the Gu family. She and Dai Feiyu were of such high status that Gu Fenglu dared to disrespect them in public. If Gu Fenglu had always been like this, he would have been killed a long time ago. Is it really Lu Li? Dai Feiyu was surprised. She thought about it and said, "How about we send someone to look into it? It will be easy to find out if there is such a person in the Gu family." "No need." Ji Mingtian sneered and said, "We will find out at tomorrow's auction. If he is bidding for the Bodhi fruit, then he is right. Whether he is Lu Li or not, he is not going to get the Bodhi fruit." Dai Feiyu was worried by Ji Mingtian's ferocious look. She said timidly, "Sister Mingtian, I think you shouldn't go against Lu Li. He is a demon. You will be the one to suffer if you go against him." Chapter 641. It was a chilly autumn morning. Of course, for warriors, they wouldn't feel cold even if it was snowing heavily. The city of Buddha was bustling in the early morning. Today was the day of the auction. The auction would be held at Mount Buddha. They had just been informed that due to the large number of people, the great Buddhist temple had decided to hold the auction at the open-air plaza of Mount Buddha. Warriors of the eternal realm, and with no problem with their identities, could go up and watch the auction freely. The news had ignited the entire city of Buddha. Many people didn't plan on bidding this time because they weren't qualified to do so. Now that they could watch the auction for free, the entire city was boiling with excitement. Many people went to the Kong family, the representative of the great Buddhist temple, to apply to go up to Mount Buddha. As long as they had no problem with their identities and were at the eternal realm, the Kong family would arrange someone to send them up. It was late in the morning. The autumn sun was warm. The wind was not strong. It was a nice day. Lu Li and the others were not in a hurry. They could pay a deposit to participate in the auction. The more they paid, the better seats they could get. Lu Li was not in need of Xian crystals, so it was easy for him to get a seat. He sent a patriarch to negotiate with the Kong family. An hour before the auction, a patriarch came in and said, "It's done. Give me a private room that can seat 3 people. Let's go." They could go up to Mount Buddha in an hour. Lu Li looked at Gu Min and the patriarch of the Gu family. The 3 of them walked out. They found a Kong family and were led to Mount Buddha on foot. Lu Li was not qualified to fly up to Mount Buddha yet. He would be killed in midair if he were to act recklessly. At the foot of Mount Buddha was a stone staircase. Similar to the winding mountain road in the tomb of Dragon King, the stone staircase spiraled up to the sky. There were 2 monks guarding at the entrance of the staircase. They were in brown frock and looked serious. Both of them were at the peak of the noble lord realm. It was evident how strict the great Buddhist temple was with this auction. A steward of the Kong family led Lu Li, Gu Min, and the other 2 up. There were many stairs, but they were quite powerful. In the time for 1 incense stick to burn, they had reached the peak. The peak was spacious. What they saw was a towering temple with 9 floors. The temple was at the north of Mount Buddha, with a radius of at least 2 miles. It was the largest temple Lu Li had ever seen. Apart from the temple at the north, there were other temples everywhere. There were no other buildings here. So many people. Lu Li glanced over. There were at least 10,000 people sitting in the plaza. It was noisy like a market. Lu Li looked at the private rooms in a semicircle. They were called private rooms, but in fact, they were just some casually built wooden huts. The front was blocked off by a veil. Lu Li could sense the people inside with psychic power. Of course, those who could enter the private rooms were all people of noble status. Perhaps there were human Renhuangs sitting in some of the private rooms, who would dare to use their divine consciousness to probe around. On both sides of the square stood rows of brown-robed monks holding black wooden sticks. All of them had bronze-colored skin and cold expressions. Needless to say, they were existences similar to arhats from the great Buddhist temple. These were all monks, and their task was to maintain the order of the auction. They are all at the peak of the noble lord realm. Luli nodded to himself. There were at least hundreds of monks outside, and all of them were at the peak of the noble lord realm. The great Buddhist temple was powerful, and the 12 royal families lived up to their name. Royal family? Luli suddenly thought of something. He murmured to Gumin, "Monks don't have descendants or families, right? Who is the royal family of the great Buddhist temple?" "It is the Kong family." Gumin looked around and said in a low voice, "Monks of the great Buddhist temple can return to secular life at will. They are not restricted whether they want to leave the mortal world or not. The last 10 generations of abbot were all from the Kong family. Therefore, the royal family is the Kong family." So that is it. Luli understood now. Leaving the mortal world was easy. There was no difference between becoming a monk or not. If they wanted to get married and have children, they could return to secular life. When they had children, they could become monks again. Luli saw many nuns walking around. He winked at Gumin, who explained in a low voice, "Actually, the great Buddhist temple is made up of more than a dozen families. Young masters and young ladies of those families will join the great Buddhist temple. Both men and women can become monks. When they're old enough to get married, they can return to secular life and get married. Of course, there are warriors from the outside who become monks. The great Buddhist temple does not restrict men and women. As long as you have Buddha in your heart, you don't even have to abstain from eating and drinking." Oh, I see. Luli understood now. But he didn't like the great Buddhist temple anymore. If the great Buddhist temple were truly devoted to Buddha, they wouldn't be reluctant to leave the mortal world, nor would they strive to become one of the 12 top forces of the continent. The Cyan Phoenix race and the Mammoth race were once besieged by 6 forces, including the great Buddhist temple. The monks and nuns were no different from regular families and forces. They just wore the disguise of Buddhists. Since there were so many people at the auction house today, the arrangement was simple. There were more than 10,000 cattail hassocks placed at the south with average warriors sitting on them. More than half of the seats were occupied. In the other 3 directions, there were simple cabins and pavilions. There were 500 or 600 of them. How are they going to fit all of them? After all, there were many families here this time. Luli was taken to a small pavilion in the corner by someone from the Kong family. Given the status of the Gu family, it was only because the patriarch of the Gu family paid 10 billion Xian crystals as a deposit to the Kong family. Otherwise, Lu Li and the other 2 would have to sit on the cattail hassocks in the crowd. The pavilion was small. There was only 1 table and 3 chairs. On the table was a pot of tea and some fruits. There wasn't even a maid to serve tea. Time moved on. After a while, a white-robed monk walked over. The ring on his hand was glowing. Then many white lotus-like lotus seeds flew up and floated above the pavilion. What are those? Luli had never seen such things before. He didn't know what they were for. Gumin explained in a low voice, "Those are lotus seeds, a kind of flying artifact. They can activate inhibition formations. I think they are for distinguished guests." No wonder. Luli finally understood. He had been wondering why so many young masters and young ladies could sit in those pavilions. He finally understood when he saw the hundreds of lotus seeds floating in the air. Whoosh, 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 from some temples on the east and west sides, many people flew up and landed on the lotus seats in a blur. Then the lotus seats glowed, and a white shield came out, enveloping the people inside. Luli used psychic power to check, but realized he could not use psychic power to see inside. He curled his lips and thought to himself that these young masters and young ladies were too arrogant. Would they lose a few pieces of flesh for a few glances? Ji Mengtian, Yang Xian, Lu Xuan, Lu Ni, Dai Fiyu, Yi Luo. A group of young masters and young ladies flew up from the west. Lu Li's pupils contracted in fear. He saw many familiar faces as well as strangers. Among this group of people, he saw a few very handsome young masters with extraordinary bearings, as well as 7 or 8 young ladies who were as beautiful as goddesses. All the young masters and young ladies of the 12 royal families are here. Lu Li pursed his lips. A beautiful lady in a red dress with a pair of foxy eyes and a tilted head came to his mind. The Jiang family was one of the royal families. But Jiang Qiling wasn't here. She must still be cultivating in the demon-slaying hall. Qiling, how are you? Luli sighed. He felt a sense of loneliness and longing. It was like the wind in autumn. Even under the warm sun, there was still a hint of coldness that lingered. P.S. Monday. P.S. Send me some recommendation votes on Monday. Recently, he had been writing until 4 in the morning every night. He was trying his best to save manuscripts. Miserable. On the 31st, there were more than a dozen days left. He wondered how many chapters he could save. Of course, there would be 20. Chapter 642. There are so many human sovereign realm warriors. Luli saw some people flashed into the lotus seats. He knew that some super families had sent not only their young generation, but also their leaders. But there were no powerful warriors of the earth and mortal realm. Luli felt more stressed. Many disciples of the Central Plains were here. Many of them might be here for fun or to join in the fun. However, the foundation of any random 7th-rank clan was probably not something he could handle. A 7th-rank family had 3 human sovereign realm warriors. They could dominate several regions at the Central Plains. A region at the Central Plains was not smaller than the Clouds Plains. The resources there were vast. The wealth accumulated over the years was staggering. Whoosh, 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 more and more people flew onto the lotus seats. Soon, the hundreds of lotus seats were all occupied. The seats at the south were almost full as well. The auction was about to begin. Bang, 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 a group of monks walked out, knocking on wooden fishes, which caught everyone's attention. Luli glanced over through the veil. He saw a young monk walking over with 2 rows of monks. What a handsome monk. I think those young ladies would want to become monks when they see him. Luli glanced at him. Even though he was a man, he was still amazed by this monk. If the monk had hair and wore a brocade robe, he would be an elegant young master, as good as Iluo. His eyes are so pure. Luli looked into the eyes of the young monk. His eyes were clear, black and white, like those of a baby. It was comforting. Gumin explained in a low voice. He should be the most outstanding disciple of the young generation of the Kong family. He became a monk a few years ago. His Buddhist name is Evil Punisher. Evil Punisher. Luli nodded to himself. The young monk seemed to be sanctimonious, righteous, and immune to evil. This Buddhist name suited him. The young monk walked to the center of the stage. He put his palms together, bowed to all sides, and said with a smile, I am Evil Punisher. Thank you, dear benefactors. Today, I am acting as the abbot to host the auction. Wow! Some young ladies from small families were sitting on the cattail hassocks at the south. They all screamed when they saw Evil Punisher. This monk was so handsome. After this, many young ladies would have the urge to become monks and join the great Buddhist temple. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Suddenly, the veil in the corner of the room moved slightly, and a little bald head came in, giving Lu Li and the others a fright. Lu Li, Gumin, and the twins were surprised to see a little girl in a white frock. The 3 of them were not weak, but this little nun was able to approach them without alerting them until she lifted the curtain. The little nun wasn't afraid at all. She went under the table and poked her head out to make a shushing gesture at Lu Li and the others. Gumin frowned. He wanted to warn the monks of the great Buddhist temple, but Luli waved him off. She was just a 6 or 7-year-old girl who liked to play. She wouldn't affect their business. Luli looked down at the table with a smile. The little nun was pretty and adorable. She looked like she was carved out of jade. She had 2 small canine teeth. Her skin was smooth and fair. She was wearing a long frock, which made her look funny but even more adorable. Luli handed a fruit to the little nun squatting by the table and said with a smile, Here you go. The little nun took over the fruit and smiled. Then she said softly, I'm not a little girl. My Buddhist name is Prajna. Brother, you are prettier than you are now. Luli was shocked to see the little girl's dark eyes. The little nun could see through his disguise? That was not right. He was not in disguise. He had moved his bones and muscles. He was a completely different person. How could this little nun, named Prajna, see through his disguise? Luli stared at the little nun with doubt. He didn't want to kill her. The little girl was innocent and lovely. He wouldn't kill her even if she wanted to do something to him, not to mention that she could see through his disguise. Ha. Prajna noticed Li's confusion. Pointing to her own eyes, she said, Prajna's eyes are different from others. I can see many things that others cannot. Impressive. Luli gave her a thumbs up. The auction hadn't started yet. Evil Punisher was instructing some people to get ready. He looked down the table with curiosity and said softly, Prajna, you sneaked out on your own. Aren't you afraid that your master will punish you? No. Prajna stuck her tongue out and said, My master doesn't care about me. There are so many guests today, and the temple is busy. That is why I can slack off. Otherwise, I would still be doing my morning lessons. Poor girl. Luli pouted, seeing the frown on Prajna's face. In a big family, a girl of this age was at the age to have fun, which average family's kids didn't travel around the world. But this little nun had the green lamp and wooden fish with her every day. For a kid, such a childhood was cruel. Suddenly, Prajna crawled out from under the table and whispered to Luli, Brother, you have a dragon in your soul pond? I feel that the dragon is very powerful. What? Luli trembled. Even his soul was trembling. He just tried to sense the little nun. She was only at the peak of the Fate Wheel realm, and she had no psychic power. How did she know about the silver dragon mark in his soul pond? What was more, the silver dragon mark was strange and powerful. Usually when someone used psychic power to check, the silver dragon mark would blur. Not even God of Meng and the others knew about the silver dragon mark in his soul pond. Did the little nun know some sorcery? Don't worry, Prajna whispered to Luli, I told you. My eyes are different from others. My master said that my eyes are the holy sight. I will not tell anyone, not even my master. After all, this is your secret. Luli was surprised. Then he remembered something and asked, Prajna, are you of miraculous birth? Ha. Prajna smiled, showing her 2 canine teeth. She moved closer to Luli and said, Brother, you have secrets, and so do I. I cannot tell you. My master said that I can't tell anyone. Looking at Prajna's sweet smile, Luli's impression of this little girl increased. Anyone would have a good impression of such an innocent and cute little girl. Luli thought about it and asked again, Prajna, tell me. You have been talking to me for so long, and you are so close to me. Aren't you afraid that I will hurt you? Like maybe I will catch you and sell you. Luli's expressions became fierce. He was a strong man in the first place, and he looked fierce. Ha. Prajna was not afraid at all. She tilted her head and said, You are a good guy. You will not hurt me. There are so many people here, and I like you the only one. What? Luli didn't understand. The little nun snuck into his private room and kept talking to him. She was so close to him. If the little girl was not born stupid, then there must be a reason. Chapter 643. A little nun appeared out of nowhere and was very intimate with him. She even said that they were fated and that he would be a very important person in her life in the future. If it weren't for the fact that this little nun was only 6 or 7 years old and had an innocent and romantic look on her face. If it weren't for this little nun's strange powers that allowed her to see through his true appearance and the silver dragon mark in his soul pond, she wouldn't have been able to do anything to him. Luli would send her flying with a kick and treat her as a liar. That was the problem. This little nun was so strange. Even Luli had a feeling that she was a little demon, a little monster, not like a normal human being. It just so happened that Luli felt very comfortable with this little girl. This girl was like his own sister or daughter. Luli loved her dearly and could not hate her at all. Dear benefactors, today's auction officially begins. Our first auction item is the green bamboo fruit. I don't need Evil Punisher to explain the effects of this fruit, right? This is a soul-nourishing spiritual fruit. This time, We will auction 10,000 of them together. The starting price is 10 million purple Xian crystals, and each increment is at least 10,000 purple Xian crystals. The noise from outside attracted Lu Li's attention, and it immediately became lively outside. Lu Li heard that the starting price of the first lot was already 10 million purple Xian crystals. He curled his lips slightly. One purple Xian crystal was worth 10,000 Xian crystals. 10 million purple Xian crystals would be 100 billion Xian crystals. Although there were 10,000 green bamboo fruits in this auction, wasn't it too expensive? This was only the first batch of items to be auctioned. How much would the final items be sold for? It was impossible to estimate. Lu Li, on the other hand, had no interest in the other fruits. All he wanted was the Bodhi fruit. This time, he brought many Xian crystals with him. Lu Ling had unified the clouds plains and looted a lot of wealth. In addition, she had sold many mystical materials in the inferno. Lu Ling asked the chief steward to bring all the Xian crystals in the national treasury to Lu Li. There were 6 trillion Xian crystals, or 600 million purple Xian crystals. 600 million purple Xian crystals was a fortune that could rival a country. If he used all of it to buy a holy grade weapon, it would probably pile up into a mountain. But at the moment, Lu Li was not so sure. Could he get the Bodhi fruit with 600 million purple Xian crystals? What if he couldn't win the bid? Soon, the people outside began to call out the price, and it rose rapidly. The bidders weren't from the royal family, but from the other 10,000-year-old aristocratic families. Today, the young masters and young mistresses of the 12 royal families would all be here. How could the disciples of the lower class miss out on such a good opportunity to show off? This was the time to display the strength of one's family. Big brother, why aren't you bidding? Prajna stood next to Lu Li, leaning against him as if she was snuggling up to him. She looked up at Lu Li. Her eyes were like stars in the night sky, bright and beautiful. Lu Li smiled and said, I am poor. I cannot afford the fruits of the great Buddhist temple. Big brother, you're lying. Prajna tiptoed and whispered to Lu Li, Brother, you have 6 trillion purple Xian crystals. How can you say that you are poor? You can even see through this? Lu Li was speechless. His Xian crystals were all in the interspatial ring. Could it be that this girl could see the treasures inside the interspatial ring? Of course. Prajna is very good. Prajna wrinkled her nose, moved closer to Lu Li's ears, and said with pride, I can see a quasi-relic in your interspatial ring. There is a cute beast and 2 people in the quasi-relic. Lu Li was speechless. This girl was so strange. She was a freak. She could even see Little White hiding in the ding of Barbarian God. Lu Li was afraid that Little White would be exposed. Ji Ming Tian and the others had seen Little White, so he threw it into the ding of Barbarian God. Ji Ming Yao and Yang Yu had passed out from hunger. Little White could control the ding of Barbarian God, so Lu Li was not worried about its safety. She must be a miraculous birth. Lu Li could only speculate. Otherwise, he could not explain Prajna's strange skills. Lu Ling was of fire phoenix birth, one of the miraculous births. She could be reborn from the ashes after being burnt. Only miraculous births could have such amazing skills. The auction went on. Lu Li didn't mind at all. He even felt bored. He had made up his mind not to bid for any mystical fruits, so he just chatted with Prajna. He felt close to this little girl. They'd only met for a moment, but he felt she was like his little sister or daughter. Gu Min and the patriarch of the Gu family sat on the side, not daring to say anything. They pretended to be watching the auction. They didn't dare to interfere in Lu Li's business. The first batch of mystical fruits, 10,000 cyan bamboo fruits, were sold soon. It seemed to be bought by a 7th-rank family, and the price was raised to 70 million purple Xian crystals. Everything at the Central Plains was bought with purple Xian crystals because treasures at the Central Plains were too expensive. It would be troublesome to calculate with Xian crystals. The second batch of mystical fruits was much less in value and quantity. There were only a dozen, and the starting price was only several million purple Xian crystals. After more than a dozen batches of treasures were sold, the final prices were not as high as the first batch. Luli was a bit relieved. None of the disciples of the 12 royal families made a bid, as if they were just here for fun. They had no intention to bid, but there were some disciples of the major families sitting on the lotus seats. They each bought a batch of mystical fruits. Luli was bored. When Evil Punisher started to introduce the items again, he whispered to Prajna, "Do you know the names of the mystical fruits to be auctioned?" "Yes." Prajna blinked and said, "There are more than 40 kinds of mystical fruits to be auctioned. I even picked some of them myself." Gu Min and the patriarch of the Gu family looked over with curiosity. Prajna must have a high status at the great Buddhist temple if she could enter the orchid garden. This pretty little nun had reached the peak of the fate wheel realm at the age of 6 or 7. Gu Min and the patriarch thought she might be a disciple of the major family of the great Buddhist temple, or even a young lady of the Kong family. Luli didn't have to guess too much about Prajna's identity. She might be of miraculous birth. She must be a treasure of the great Buddhist temple, even if she wasn't a young lady of the Kong family. But he didn't understand why the great Buddhist temple didn't come looking for her when she snuck into his private room. Weren't they afraid that Luli would kidnap Prajna? Luli soon forgot about these thoughts. He asked in a hurry, "Prajna, do you know what the last 3 items are?" Prajna thought about it. She tilted her head and said in a low voice, "Yes, the fairy lucid Ganoderma, the Bodhi fruit, and the dragon saliva fruit. Those are the last 3 items." Last 3 items. Luli pulled a long face. The Bodhi fruit was the second last. How high would the price go? He couldn't imagine. Could he get the 6 trillion purple Xian crystals? If not, I will borrow some from you, Luo. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.